Welcome back to the Convo Couch, my humans. I am Brother Pasta.
Oh my God, you're so obnoxious. I'm Fiorella.
Sister Fiorella.
Oh my
and
God.
Brother Sue is on the ones and twos. We had a great interview yesterday.
Yes.
If you haven't checked it out, guys, it was really, I don't know, fam. I mean, I was just like, I felt like I talked to somebody, you know, it was just life-changing in a way. I mean, that's like Cornel West is the top of the food chain when it comes to activists, when it comes to people who build bridges, when it comes to knowledge, when it comes to imperialism, when it comes to racial injustice, when it comes to social injustice. And, you know, I got to tell you, fam, your first question, I was really thinking about it all night because I kind of responded at the end and I told Dr. Cornel West, and that was the question, is like, why would we vote for Biden if we're getting nothing out of this? And he said to you, well, that's the $1 million question, sister of sorts. That's a hard time he has explaining to people. And I said to him, well, yeah, you're not doing a good job of selling Joe Biden, but I should have followed up by saying, because it's probably the most impossible job in the world is to try to sell Joe Biden at this point, because there is nothing really much to offer. The fact that he feels that Donald Trump is a neo-fascist and Joe Biden's a neo-liberal with crypto-fascism and authoritarian ways. I mean, how do you pick? And if Dr. Cornel West, Brother West can't sell Joe Biden, nobody can.
Right. And he was basically, he wasn't even saying he was going to vote for Joe Biden. What he was saying was, if you're in a swing state, we have to get this neo-fascist out of office. And I understand that perspective. That was a similar perspective that you had when you voted for Hillary Clinton in 2016. I'm not just harping on that. I'm just saying, like, that was something that a lot of people thought then. But I think it's weird. I think a lot of us have come to a point where, well, it didn't work then. It's not going to work now. What's the difference at this point, right? So as much as we don't like Donald Trump, a lot of us is like, it's just, for me, a moral thing. I can't morally bring myself to vote for somebody that's it's very similar to Donald Trump, and if not, maybe worse. Foreign policy wise, I don't know, maybe
pedophilia worse, women worse.
I really don't know.
Yeah.
But it's like, those shouldn't be my only choices, and so I think our power's in the electorate. And so I think it's awesome that we don't have to worry about it in California, because we can vote with whoever we want without, but people are still gonna trash us. People are still gonna say, oh, well, you need to vote for blah blah blah, vote for anybody but Biden is a vote for Trump, blah blah blah. They're still saying that.
Yeah.
But it didn't work. So it's just like, it doesn't have the same effect anymore. Also, one thing he pointed out was, we don't have a strong left structure coalition, and we don't. I mean, he voted for Jill Stein in 2016. We don't really have a candidate that's as popular as Jill Stein right now, like, that's actually getting the nomination and that's out there.
In the Libertarian Party, for that matter, too, as well, like it was last time with Gary Johnson. Who a lot of, there was a lot of like progressives are like, well, I don't like this guy that much at all, but there are avenues.
No, I mean, I would vote for Gary Johnson if he was running.
Right now,
how
I would
bad
vote for
it
Gary
is.
Johnson.
As much as I really didn't like him, except his marijuana stance.
You vote for Andrew Yang, right?
I'd vote for Andrew Yang.
I mean,
it's crazy.
And I'm not crazy about Yang.
It's bad. Yeah.
I did start the Yang gang for him. That Yang gang.
You did.
Yang gang. He was a fun candidate of sorts. But when you hit him with that question, and then the eyes lit up, and it was like, imagine a story where Snow White and the Big Bears are friends, and they can buy an apartment together because now they have that power. And it was like, yeah, Andrew, I think you're trying to sell something, because your UBI is a great start, and it's a great talking point. And it's really coming up now.
Well, it brought it up into the forefront, and I think that's important to note, that he did bring that up into the forefront. It wasn't really spoken on that level before.
I think also, too, Dr. Cornel West's kind of attempt to push Biden maybe in a swing state over Donald Trump is also going to fall on deaf ears, because what did happen in 2016, because you remind me, on 2016, a lot of us did do that. For me, it was all about sexism. Like, how could I vote for, excuse my French, the pussy grabber? You know what I'm saying? When I was in Florida and I mailed in that ballot before I left, but when I did do it, I had my Bernie Sanders shirt on, and I was crying. Yeah. And I never forget the pain I felt for having to vote for a person like Hillary Clinton. And I think that Dr. West is wrong in the fact that we don't have something outside the left, but I think he's wrong in the fact that if we keep digressing back to the establishment, it will never build outside that.
I mean, I think
party.
It's a catch-22. It could be both. It could be either way. We don't have that because we always keep falling between the lesser of evils. We also don't have that because, like, we just don't know how to organize on the left. Like, we are so divided.
Yeah.
We are just so all over the place. The Green Party can't get their shit together. And it's just, it's really shitty right now, the situation we're in. So I don't disrespect. I mean, I loved how he presented it because we had a conversation and we had we agree on pretty much 98% of things, 99% of things. It is that one tactical difference as to like how I don't think it's worth for people in swing states to necessarily vote either way. I also have come to believe that Joe Biden and Donald Trump are really like don't really care. Like they're, especially Trump, like he's not even like, because of this stuff that we're going to talk about really quick in the news, like Donald Trump and Donald Trump's people made this really ridiculous ad. And this is why I think this is all a joke being played on all of us, because in this ad, he accuses Joe Biden of being a Trojan horse for AOC, Bernie Sanders, and Ilhan Omar's socialist policies. Like, I literally sit here and yell and complain about Bernie Sanders and AOC and Ilhan Omar because they're not progressive enough. They're not challenging the Democratic establishment. They're trying to reform it. And I am like constantly like fighting for them. I'm telling you, they're center left. They're not close to being like an actual socialist. And here is the GOP trying to tell you that, well, they've been saying that Joe Biden is a Marxist, and now they're saying that Joe Biden's a Trojan horse for all these crazy socialists. And it's so ridiculous because they have to know. They know that Joe Biden is a Republican, like policy-wise.
Yeah, but here's the thing. They're really playing on the fact that the American people don't understand the difference between a socialist, communist, and whatnot. They see, oh, you want to live in a socialist country? Go to Venezuela. Like, they don't understand, like, what truly socialism is and what communism is. You know what I'm saying? Communism is more about the workers owning, since they have to seize the means of production because they produce all the goods, so they create all the wealth. They believe they should own the companies.
And
that's really
it's
about labor, you know?
It's just we don't study this because it's all been red-baited.
Yeah. Well, let's play the video and we'll talk about it after, because this is something that's very intriguing right now, fam. I mean, in a way, for the Trump campaign, it's genius. They understand the WWE wrestling mentality out there. They understand the crowd. And so many times, even though it's not true, Obama was a socialist. Obama was not even close to being a socialist.
I think he even said once he was closer to being a Republican.
He did say, he said, a moderate kind of, person there. My votes or my policies are more center.
That was the most honest thing he ever said.
And it's the truth. You know what I'm saying? And Joe Biden is, once again, that. We're not going to get Medicare for all with Joe Biden. We're not going to get a Green New Deal. We're not going to get anything. So, I mean, this commercial, in a way, is so wrong. It's so inaccurate, when it comes to the information, when it comes to the actual projection it's trying to make. But in another way, I look at what the Trump campaign is, that they're ready. They know how to rile up their base. They know how to rile up their people. And once again, it's like another genius move from Donald Trump. His time in the WWE helped him out, because whether we like it or not, being true or false, this is going to help rile up his base.
And by Bernie Sanders promoting Biden, which we're going to talk about in a minute, and doing all the stuff in AOC and the way she's kind of just been super anti-Republican only and hasn't really gone after the Democratic establishment enough, it just serves their purpose, because this is what they do. They put us all in one area. Like that, I'm the same as Deborah Messing when I can't stand that woman. Like Nina Turner and Deborah Messing are over here. Like Nina's here, Deborah Messing's here. But to the GOP and to conservative people who don't really understand or aren't informed on the politics, we're all the same. We hate the Democrats as much as you guys do. If you're
probably
a conservative, probably more, because they pretend to be our friend and they're not. So I get so irritated because this just plays into the whole Team A versus Team B. And then people don't get the full information. And then we're like stuck, like having to, like, no, like, do not insult me that way. Do not put me in the same vein as Joe Biden. Like, please do not do that.
Here's the thing. We did that on the right, not us in particular, but mainstream did that on the right when we didn't differentiate the Tea Party and the Freedom Caucus from the establishment right. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people weren't talking about the establishment until Bernie Sanders came along and when he was taking on the establishment. But that establishment was going on the right, and I know a lot of people lumped them all together. Oh, they're just all crazy Republicans, Tea Party, establishment, whatever. So now the same thing is happening on the left, where we have the biggest divide on the left ever.
It's far bigger,
I've never
though.
seen...
Because they were able to, like, they will unite together. We can't do that because I think our divide is even greater because I think they're closer to here than they are to here.
But the voters will unite, and that's something that's true, but the actual people within the party at that time didn't unite. Like I talk about it, they made Boehner cry. They made him quit. They put their flag in the ground and said, you know what, establishment right? Even though we're Republicans, we're not voting for your bill. You go and cry with Obama. We're not giving you anything. We're making a stance right here. So within the electorate, within the legislation, they made those moves where our left did not make those moves. Those are the moves right now. Come on. When AOC got elected, when Ilhan got elected, we didn't expect them to be playing ball the way they are right now.
No, not at all.
We expected them to be raging against the machine from within the inside. Same thing with Bernie. But it did not happen, and that is something that's really haunting us to this day. That's why I believe, despite what Brother West says, we can't vote for Joe Biden.
Well, that's why I believe, like Brother West says, revolution. And sometimes if they make a peaceful revolution impossible, they make a violent revolution inevitable. So I think we're going to get to that point, fam.
I didn't expect that from him, to be honest with you.
When he goes,
I'm not a pacifist. I'm letting you know right now. I was like, wow.
I thought I was a long time ago. And then the more I learned about foreign policy, especially, I'm a non-interventionist. I'm an anti-imperialist. But that doesn't mean that we shouldn't defend ourselves or defend other people from us, which is turning out to be the case. And have like a fight within our own system. So
yes.
Super chat.
Super chat, and then we'll go on to the next section. Fam, that was something that was surprising to me too as well. I think I always thought he was more MLK and more Gandhi, where it's like no violence whatsoever. No, he's a little bit more like Malcolm X, where it's like, well, when it's time to rock and roll, it's time to rock and roll. Jason V, thank you for the super chat contribution. I want to ask Dr. West what his plan is when the next election is just as worse of a choice. Yet, voting for Biden will only perpetuate this stuff. Also, ignorance of the DNC election rigging was baffling and sad. Listen, that's really. Let's talk about that for just one quick second, fam. It's really, there's so much shit on the surface going on. It's really hard to pay attention to everything. That's something that we kind of just we honed in on. Yeah.
Let me tell you guys, like, there are so many stories to cover and so many things going on in the daily, like, and so many things people send us to and so many messages, and so it's overwhelming for us. I'm trying to imagine what it was like for Sanders, for Dr. Cornel West, for all these things. Yes, they should be on top of all these things, but like election integrity is the one thing that you literally have to sit down and read and discuss and research and talk. It's like deep like level research that I know some people simply do not have the time for. We took it upon ourselves because we were, for over a year, we were ahead of the elections, like, because we knew this shit was going to happen again. And because we were tainted and traumatized.
What happened
by 2016. So like awful. We knew. And so did a lot of our friends here. They knew. But like that was because we were on the ground and stuff. Like sometimes when you're not necessarily like on the ground on that issue, you have to pick your issue. Like there's no way you're going to be able to do everything, right? And I think Cornel West picks his issues. Like his issues were, like fighting for certain things, that social justice, imperialism. That's his thing. I'm not as an expert on that as he is, but he learned something. He said, if I would have known. And that's the thing. That's what I'm going to talk about Tuesday with a grassroots organizer, because the Bernie campaign, the people like Jeff Weber kept all of this information out of Bernie. Like they told him what they wanted him to hear, him and Foz, and they didn't tell him any of this stuff. Now, I'm not saying he's innocent in all of this. Obviously, he's not. But I am saying like there was a lot of information that was kept out. A lot of people didn't know everything that was happening. So I forgive him for that, because I think not everybody's going to know everything there is to know about everything.
I think tactically in 2016, he might have ignored it, figured that he can overwhelm the electorate the next time out. and get past the cheating. But
there was that I don't want to be Ralph Nader thing, which is really,
there's a lot of things. 2020, there was a lot of other things, and even hearing Dr. West talk about imperialism too as well, when we kind of mentioned Tulsi and everything, and I mean there was a split within the people out and about. I don't think there was a split within the there might have been a split within the campaign between those parties, but he did kind of ostracize the campaign, ostracized themselves from the grassroots, ostracized themselves from other possible allies.
He lost Bernie Sanders, because we went to Washington and we spoke to a lot of people in King County, because Johnny and I were saying, there's no way Bernie Sanders lost King County. But some of the people there were saying a lot of the people that Bernie had initially in 2016 didn't go out for him in 2020 because the whole campaign perception was to focus on the getting that centrist vote, which is understandable, but that was their failure because they lost a lot of the independent voters, a lot of the people that would have voted Republican if he in 2016 but voted for him ended up voting Republican or voting for somebody else, and that's something that definitely hurt him this time too. But
just on another note too, I'm going to be dropping that article. I just put a clip up of Johnny suing us when we were in New Hampshire with the SIM card, so all that's going to come out. We're going to talk about election integrity. We're not stopping on that issue.
No.
We're going to push forward. Is there any more super chats? Yes, there is, real quick, from Reeve Barker. We love you, Reeve. Always watching us, always supporting. Love you, brother.
Reeve?
Or sister, whoever you are. Sister Barker, Brother Barker, Brother Reeve. There's a protest at a officer-involved shooting in Detroit. Are there any details that you know of? The Hill is showing it live. I do not know about it.
No.
But,
Again,
officer shootings.
Much shit going on. We're actually, we're kind of tuning into Movement for the People's Party. They're having protests at people's house this weekend. There are issues going on with the LACDP here. The Los Angeles Democrats are being corrupt as usual. There is so much going on, and we're trying to cover everything.
Yeah, foreign policy-wise, forget
Robert
about
Fuller's
it right now.
story, Johnny's going to do later on an update on that. I mean, there's just so much, you guys.
Foreign policy, Ethiopian dam, China and Iran making a pact.
Well,
are they? You know what I'm saying? There's all this stuff going on.
So let's get to it.
We got a lot to talk about. Let's talk about the next one.
Okay, so
here's your boy.
So Bernie Sanders, to the chagrin and really anger of a lot of people, chagrin is an understatement. Everybody's pissed at Bernie because he thinks that Joe Biden is going to be the most progressive president since FDR. So initially, Joe Biden made a statement apparently saying that he was, he plans to be the most progressive president since FDR.
Joke.
And he said, this is what Bernie Sanders said: "I was glad to work with the vice president in forming 6 separate task forces, which have some of the most knowledgeable people in the country coming together to deal with education and climate change and healthcare. People like John Kerry, sure, and the economy and criminal justice and immigration reform." And then he said this on NBC, and then he said, there was serious discussion, and I think a real honest effort to come up with a compromise, Sanders said. "I think the compromise that they came up with, if implemented, will make Biden the most progressive president since FDR." Okay, so it sounds ridiculous, but it gets worse because he goes on to take this a little bit further on his Twitter.
This is on Mariana Sotomayor.
Yeah, so let's just play the video really quick, and then
it makes me nauseous when I hear him speak this shit.
I was glad to work with the vice president in forming 6 separate task forces, which had some of the most knowledgeable people in the country coming together to deal with education and climate change and healthcare and the economy and criminal justice and immigration reform. And these folks, needless to say, people who represented the progressive movement, had a different perspective on things than did Biden's people. But there was serious discussion, and I think a real honest effort to come up with a compromise. And I think the compromise that they came up with, if implemented, will make Biden the most progressive president since FDR. It did not have, needless to say, everything that I wanted, didn't have everything that Biden wanted.
Okay, so Bernie to me is like what Cornel West is to a lot of people. I mean, I feel like that way about Cornel West. I felt that way about Bernie. So to me, hearing this is like, what the hell? Like, it's tough still to hear him say this crap. So he even went on Twitter And I know Jimmy went after him, but he said, while Joe Biden and I and our supporters have strong disagreements about some of the most important issues facing our country, they're not disagreements. They're moral, complete differences. There's two different things.
Two different ideologies.
We also understand we must come together in order to defeat Donald Trump, the most dangerous president in modern American history. Okay. And then he continued, I think he said, through the end result, though the end result isn't what I or my supporters would have written alone, the task forces have created good policy blueprint that will move this country in a much needed progressive direction and substantially improve the lives of working families throughout the country. I look forward to working with President Joe Biden and Vice President Joe Biden and help him win in this campaign, blah, 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 blah. Okay. So I want to go over exactly what these things, this task force, right, compromised on, because he's saying that this is going to be the most progressive thing since FDR. And I'm telling you guys, it's not, because what he compromised on was shit. It was literally nothing. They got absolutely nothing. And so let me read a few of these, Johnny, and I put the pictures in there. He said, this is when he says, when I talked to Joe a while ago, he said he wants to be the most progressive president since FDR. Do I believe that Biden believes that now is the time for bold action to protect the working class and lower income people in this country? Yes, I do believe that's the case. Okay, so let's look at exactly what this is, because it's bullshit. So the goals of the task force were to move the Biden campaign into as progressive as direction as possible. And I think we did that, he says. One issue after the issue, on the issue after issue, whether it was education, the economy, healthcare, climate, immigration, and criminal justice, I think there was significant movement in part of the Biden campaign.
The goals of the task force were to force us to always have Nathan hot dogs on every corner, no matter what. And Sanders told NPR, after issue after issue, whether it was education, the economy, healthcare, climate, immigration, or criminal justice, I think there was significant movement on the part of my good friend Biden.
All right, so
Joe Biden. Go vote for him.
So here's the part where we're going to discuss what it is.
Too.
So
let me tell you about this girl.
Where the healthcare task force landed, okay? So this is enraging right here for me. Washington Rep. Pramila Jayapal, co-chair of the healthcare task force. She has long pushed, like Sanders, for a single government-run healthcare insurance program, but didn't bring that recommendation to the table in any of the meetings or negotiations. Why did she not do that? Because this was never about moving Biden to the left, because unless you eliminate lobbyists that he gets money from, you're not going to move him anywhere to the left, number one. Number two, she didn't bring it in because, hey, guess what? They weren't allowed to even say anything against Biden. Neither the people that were present nor the delegates that are going to be there in that sham of a freaking bullshit delegation that's going to happen. It's a coronation. It's no longer any sort of compromise. They've already let go of all their power. They have zero power. She didn't bring it in because they knew that there was no way that was even going to happen. So what the hell is the point of calling it a unity task force? This is a Joe Biden complacency task force. It's so stupid.
You know, Pramila is still on my shit list. The other day we saw Adam Smith do his tie after he got out of the House panel approving a $740.5 billion budget. I mean, this is a Democrat, Adam Smith, that you endorsed over Sarah Smith, and you just pretty much gave a warmonger a free ticket to go on and keep doing what he's doing. $740 billion. This is the guy you promoted, and you said you're going to still vote for Joe Biden. I'm sorry, Pramila. I'm done with these Democrats, these progressives doing that. I don't care about your ideas. Until you take on the leadership, nothing will change.
And then she went on to say that there was a lot that Biden had already said on healthcare, which somewhat limited our ability to perhaps get as much as we wanted to get. What? There is no like middle ground on healthcare. You either for Medicare for all or you're for the continuation of big insurance companies and big pharma dominating the system, which they were at the table. Make no mistake, they're at the table right now, and they should not be. And we
always talked about who's going to get the seat at the table. That's the most important, right, fam? Well, here it is.
So a lot of people say you need to vote for Joe Biden because of the climate. So let's talk about what Biden's going to do on the climate. The document that Biden committed to was going to eliminate carbon pollution from power plants by 2035. And to zeroing out greenhouse gas emissions across the entire economy by 2050, you guys. The task forces call for funding universal pre-kindergarten across the country. Okay, great. Expanding Social Security, raising the national minimum wage, and eliminating cash bail. Okay, those are all good things, among many other long-sought progressive stances.
I like this 2050, fam.
This is crumbs. Because you're not even that. None of this might even go through.
Yeah.
So guess what? You're already starting with crumbs. We're gonna get shit because you always go big. And the thing is, they crippled them from having the ability to go big, and they knew that going in, which is why a lot of the delegates and a lot of people who were so excited to be Bernie delegates said, "Fuck this," because this is all a show. This is all theater. This is all sham. Theater. So, Jonny, there's some of the documents so you can show people like the It is Biden. It's tiny Biden and stuff. And
I like
Biden
the 2050. Like you can see the planet on
2050,
fire, right?
Yeah.
Oh, we better get to those greenhouse gas emissions right there, and the planet's just on flames.
It's like the little
right
dog
now.
with the house on fire.
Yeah.
That's where we're at right now.
Jesus Christmas.
So here's the actual document. This is the Biden-Sanders Unity Task Force.
The guy who, not let's end fracking immediately. End it immediately.
Because I can't.
Call a ban on fracking worldwide. Start with the United States. Nothing like that. You know what I'm saying? We had to go through the courts to get the DAPL pipeline drained and turned back. Nothing from our leaders.
This literally, I can't. I'm not gonna read this. I just want you guys to know where it's at, so you guys can read the whole thing. But it basically talks about how the climate is an emergency and how we have a climate agreement and we need to restore it. Blah blah blah. Like, do you think by these little measures we're going to help the climate? No, literally scientists are saying we need a drastic change if we're going to do anything. They're talking about 2050. We might not even have a United States by 2050. Like, we might not even have anything by 2035. Yeah. I mean, you guys, like, this is insane. Like, everybody should be free. Like, this is a joke. This is a joke. And they're saying, well, Democrats believe in climate change. No, you don't. You believe in incrementalism to make it look like you believe in climate change, but you're still taking that oil money and all and not doing enough. A Green New Deal is a minimum that we need, not only for the climate, but for the economy. And they won't even give you that. Why? Because we already have people like Bernie Sanders, AOC, and the rest of the progressives capitulating on every freaking turn. So what the hell are they going to are they going to get? This is why we have zero power in the electorate and why we need to take our power in the streets and why we need to be a general strike. We need to be protesting for the things we want, because this is not going to help anybody. I mean, it's really minimal, really, really minimal. It is a joke. It's this is the progressive left in the United States. That is the joke.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, hopefully, later on we'll get some answers from Richard Idris, who will be coming on today from the Draft Jesse movement. I guess there might be an inkling of a chance to get through, but I'm praying for it right now at this point, because right now we are just lost. I didn't expect to get anything from Biden anyways. No way I can ever vote for him ever again.
But they're trying to make it sound like it's some sort of like amazing like compromise. It is. There's no compromise. Would have been like something. We got nothing. We didn't even get a public option for healthcare. We're just restoring the ACA.
We got AOC there going. I remember in Venice she said that our foreign policy is our domestic policy, and that was shortly after she said that she's going to defer to the caucus leadership when it comes to Venezuela. Okay. All right.
Jonny, you have anything to say? Okay.
Nothing else to say. Okay, so that was the last one. Is this video 2 here, or is that a different one?
This is a different one.
All right. Yeah, we put this in real quick. Fam.
Speaking of progressives,
our boy.
So speaking of progressives, because
Roby Jager.
Because it's a joke now. I mean, we have to hold these people accountable. Like I said, I was a huge fan of AOC. Pasa and I both were.
Yeah. I went to her campaign 6 weeks before she won, when nobody was there, when nobody was paying attention. She was on the Jimmy Dore show. We knew about her. We liked her. She was a Justice Democrat. We went and got her. You know what I'm saying? We're like, let's go talk to her. She was like one of our favorites. Let's be honest.
Yeah, 100%.
She was one of our favorites.
So Robbie, as always, like
from the
doing
NCSC family, brother Robbie,
brother Jager, Jagermeister. According to online booking agency CTI, who contacts celebrity agents to facilitate paid public appearances, you can hire Nancy Pelosi or AOC to speak at your event for a measly $75,000 to $150,000 each.
Oh,
now,
capitalism.
I question Robbie, like Robbie. I don't know why you say that, so then I get confused.
Robbie Jagger.
Yeah, and he said federal law prohibits members of Congress from accepting speaking fees while in office. I'd be interested to know if AOC or Pelosi, as well as Reps Claire McCaskill and Dan Crenshaw, or their reps, know that the company CTI is soliciting their services. As mentioned above, CTI also claimed that Reps McCaskill and Crenshaw can be contacted to speak/appear at events for $40,000 to $75,000.
Save a few bucks.
Save a few bucks, yeah. I'll take McCaskill. CTI lists hundreds of names from across several spheres of quote celebrity available for potential hires, such as Pete Buttigieg, $150,000 to $300,000. Wow, really? Who would pay that much for a bat cave? And Dick Cheney, $300K to $500K, a wine cave.
Okay.
Maybe I would if I had the money. I love wine. Dick Cheney, fam. Really? Okay, so I said, Robbie, have you done any research, any validity on the site? Like, are there people actually who book through it? And he said, they appear to be legit. They state that they have been around for 25 plus years and have coordinated Super Bowl events for NBC and have an A+ rating with the BBB. Whether they have ever facilitated events involving all of the talent listed is unknown. So we can go to their website, Johnny. You can click on their website.
Right there.
And I put the link in there, and you have their history, and you guys can go directly to the link where AOC is listed and see the details.
How messed up this really is, though, fam. I mean, this is really, really messed up. You're talking about $75,000 to $150,000 to speak. There are people starving. Everybody got shut out of the CARES Act. Nobody got the money. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people are sitting there waiting. There's no rent forgiveness whatsoever. It's going to be a tsunami, no pun intended, Johnny, let's call him. What's that? Where's my phone?
I thought about that.
Where's the number?
You guys want to call him?
I'm calling him right now. I want to ask the book AOC. Let me call him. I got it right here, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to call the number. We're going to call CTI and see if we can book our girl. You got it.
Hello. You've reached the corporate office of Celebrity Talent International. If you know your party's extension, please dial it now or press 1 for the company directory. For additional information, please visit celebritytalent.net and complete the request information sheet, and the appropriate agent will contact you as soon as possible. If you'd like to leave a message for the general mailbox, please dial extension 106.
All right, let's get 106.
Hello, you've reached the general mailbox for Celebrity Talent International. Please note that Celebrity Talent does not pass on personal messages or contact celebrities for free events. After the tone, please leave your message.
Well, I don't want you to contact AOC for a free event. I'm willing to pay. It's my fam's birthday coming up, and I want to have AOC come speak. Where we have a budget somewhere in the range of about $75,000. We saw on your website CTI. Where she charges $75,000 to $150,000. We are in that range. If you can give us a call back, I'd really appreciate it. 323. I'm not going to give my number out loud. But anyways, give me a call back. All right. So, anyways. It was fun to do that. Obviously, they're not going to call us back, but
well, we can fill out the talent request form.
Yes, minimum fees. Look at that, $75,000 to $100,000.
So not all of it is for her. Obviously, they get their pay cut.
Of course they do.
So so let me
Johnny,
be clear.
take a screenshot of that. So once they take that shit down, we have that.
Let me be clear.
Oh my God.
I have zero evidence that she has actually been booked through this. However, let's go over. She went to RuPaul's Drag Race, and I know it costs money, and she worked with a talent agency to book that. Now she does have a talent agency. This is what I have a problem with, fam. And we were actors. If you're going to be an actor, if you're going to be a celebrity, have a talent agent. I don't think politicians should have a talent agent.
No.
You know, a lot of journalists have it because you do a lot of events and stuff. But even that, like, even just putting a middleman between yourself and the people. When you're a public servant, your job is to be a public servant. You're already getting paid a really great salary to be a public servant, to really be there for the people. You should be speaking to the people for free. In fact, that is your job. It is your job to speak to the people and let them know of the issues concerning your district, etc. Like, I would never, ever, ever, ever freaking charge people that much money to speak to me. I think that's disgusting. It's also, okay, I expect it from a capitalist. I don't expect it from a democratic socialist, especially as somebody like AOC who ran on that platform. And like, again, I'm not saying she has actually booked this, but I did put up a link, Johnny, there was a book deal that she was supposed to do.
Yeah.
And in last year, and she was working with CAA. CAA is
we had that report.
Yeah, and CAA fam.
CAA is.
Who is CAA?
Creative Artist Agency, which has a lot of the Epstein, Weinstein, all these connections to all the way up to top, Michael Kives, to Hillary Clinton, to the establishment. You go down the CAA rat hole and some of the people they are connected with. Hollywood being connected to the establishment. This is one of the big avenues where we see, and we did have that report,
This is
Robbie.
Epstein. This is Epstein Road. Like, literally. Like, CAA has, like that connection. And if you recall, Robbie also reported about the Young Turks, like the Young Turks media, the media who are represented by UTA, which is a partner of or are they above CAA?
They're like a smaller brand of CAA. Okay. You know what I'm saying? They're a
yeah. So again, this doesn't look good. This is very establishment. I mean, I never saw Bernie Sanders be like represented by these. That's the thing. I can say all these things about Bernie. I can say it, but I have never seen him go after like big money like this, speaking fees and all of that stuff. You don't find him on this website.
It shows you how naive AOC is too.
Yeah,
just
I mean,
naive.
it's been
to not even know where you're going with this shit. Like, why would you put your name out there? Really, you're gonna. I mean, I know you're the hot thing right now, and you got people fooled. But once they see all this information come out, what you've been doing, the meeting that we saw you meeting with last year with CAA. I remember when Nico brought that to my attention. I was like, what the hell, fam? That she's meeting with CAA? Like, you better not be doing that. But yeah, she did. The book deal, the whole 9 yards.
It didn't go through. It was mysteriously pulled, and we don't really know why. So again, I'm not holding that against her still. I haven't seen evidence of her booking speaking fees yet, but I mean, it's out there. I'm going to be paying attention now to see what she does, you know?
Yeah. All right, let's see if we got another super chat contribution. I think we did. Did we, Johnny? I missed it, maybe. Oh, there it is. Reeve Barker again. Guy McPherson interview with Jamal on Sputnik said, severe enough crop failure by next fall to cause the collapse of civilization. That's another thing to talk about.
Yeah, so 2035, 2050, sure.
Yeah. 200 people watching on the YouTube. We appreciate it. Only 5 on the ROKFIN. Ivan, you got to give us your information. We can send you out that shirt. Fred, Edward, I got your information. I'll get your shirt made, your size. Pidge, Holly, thank you guys for hanging on. Go over to the ROKFIN, ROKFIN. And if you got some extra bucks, if you can afford it, please be one of our Patreons. We appreciate all the love you give us. We appreciate all the super chats yesterday. We appreciate the we appreciate the super chats today. Thank you guys so much. So I'm going to do a really quick, I don't want to go into this because there's a lot of story going on. I just want to bring it to your attention on what's going on, foreign policy rundown. Johnny, did you have anything to say about the last subject? All right. So we talked about it. We have Mark Sloboda on the show. Mark Sloboda told us when we brought up the issue about the Ethiopian dam that's being built along the Blue Nile. Ethiopia is now trying to build a dam. They're even calling it the Renaissance dams. That's how big and what it means to the country if, in fact, they get this done. Now, it's not. Let me do this. If, in fact, they get this done, they're talking about powering electricity throughout their country and whatnot. However, that part of the Nile runs straight up through Sudan and into Egypt. And Egypt is heavily dependent on the Nile River. They're heavily dependent on not just the water, but the sources, the electricity, the current, everything they get from it. So now they've been trying to kind of work out a deal. We'll say, hey, if you're going to build this dam, maybe you can fill it up in 10 years. Maybe you can fill it up in 12 years. Maybe you can do it slowly. Help us out. Maybe we can come to some compromise. Obviously, the West was backing up Egypt and telling them not to go ahead with this. But now it might lead to war, fam, because the showdown on the Nile, Egypt threatens war with Ethiopia as Ethiopia prepares to fill its new dam. Just really quickly, Ethiopia has talked about filling it and filling it quick. It looks like the president over there in Ethiopia is kind of trying to play hardball. Egypt buys a lot of weaponry from the United States. Okay, a lot of people have been talking. I haven't been able to find anything to back this up. That a lot of Egypt weaponry they've been investing in is fuel technology in the air, fam. So if they want to go bomb this dam, they're going to go fly over Sudan, fuel up, bomb it, and come back. We don't know if that's going to happen, but I don't see Egypt kind of sitting still and letting this happen. So this is something we have to pay attention to. Mark Sloboda said he'd highly doubt there would be a war of sorts or if there would be military action. We've already reported in the Sudan, there's been a lot of private militias kind of going in and having attacks along the border, trying to scare Ethiopia, let them know that Egypt's just not going to sit back and let this happen. So there is a chance that something can go on. And we've been talking about water wars.
Yeah.
We're paying attention to water all along here. We watched Aaron Brockovich the other day. We went to the board. We have a nice video up. But this is something to really pay attention to, fam, because as we talk about these crops falling, all the water, all the resources, people aren't even realizing that we've been draining a lot of our natural resources from this country, from this world, from this planet, and polluting a lot of sources as well. So what are your thoughts on this real quick before I go on to the next subject?
I think it's going to be an issue that people maybe aren't paying attention to now. But as we progress and as we are offered measly solutions by the government regarding water, we're going to see that become to a forefront issue because literally we right now in LA we live in a desert pretty much, and a lot of the United States is experiencing water shortages, and so there's also dirty water, contaminated water, as you know, Flint and other areas, West Virginia,
Chromium-6, right?
And then you have added to that the corporations trying to privatize the water. So what we're seeing here in LA, it's growing to a state level, then to a national level, and then of course to the bigger picture worldwide level where countries are going to end up competing for resources of water, and water is life. You cannot survive without water. So either we all get our shit together as humans, or we're all going to be killing each other for something as simple as water very soon.
Well, water is the most important commodity.
It's a human right.
It's the most precious resource on this planet. We can't live without water. Water is more important than food, some would say. All right, so the next topic, we have to just pay attention to that. China inks a military deal with Iran under a secretive 25-year plan. Now, we've been paying attention to what's going on over here.
Right.
Obviously, with Iran having a lot of problems from the West and them pulling out of the Iranian deal, it doesn't look like Iran may be partnering up with the West anytime soon. However, there are factions within their government that wants the West back in. They don't like their government. And China has been kind of poking around, seeing if they can make a deal. Now, a lot of it has to do with the Belt, Silk, and Road Initiative, the One Belt, One Road, the OBOR initiative. There's going to be a road that will go through Iran for this whole project, and a lot of people think that China was just kind of inking a deal for that. But again, secretively, they've been talking about possibly putting military bases in there.
Yep.
Now, if that's something really serious to pay attention to, because if they're going to put military bases in Iran, it's going to be right on the border of Saudi Arabia, and that's a U.S. Proxy ally of sorts. So that's going to really make Saudi Arabia really, really nervous. But however, a lot of people are saying that is the deal true? Are they in this particular deal that was reported by this particular article? China pretty much gets a very, very good deal from Iran. In other words, they're going to take over a lot of their manufacturing and their science when it comes to producing the oil, but then they get to buy the oil at a heavily discounted rate. You know what I'm saying? They don't have to pay it for years. They don't have to pay it. They can pay in certain currencies. So a lot of people within Iran were pissed off. And now Press TV, once they saw this article, and this article got so much popularity, they put out their article saying enemy propaganda meant to undermine the strategic partnership deal with China. So that was Iran. That's the next one from Press TV, which Press TV is pretty much an Iranian channel, an Iranian network, and they're trying to say, no, we're not getting raped by the Chinese. They're putting it out there. That's propaganda. Those things aren't backed up. They're not necessarily denying that the deal is going down, but they're trying to kind of walk it back in a way, fam, to say that the Iranian people won't get screwed, because there's a lot of people in Iran who are very nervous that, okay, which imperialism do we want? Do we want to deal with imperialism from America now, or do we want to deal with Chinese imperialism down the road? So if we just pretty much give up all our resources for nothing to China, that's going to come back to haunt us. And there's a lot of stuff. Iran, China packed turbochargers, the new Silk Roads. So there's a lot of noise out there. But if you look at these three particular articles that we kind of reference, you'll get a story of what's going to go on. Are there going to be bases in Iran? How many bases? What's the weaponry? Because in that first article, fam, they talk about a lot of weaponry that really can bring a frightenedness out of Saudi Arabia, who's right on their border where, Iran's going to be like, now we got your ass.
And then we get involved.
Exactly. So it's something to pay attention to. China's starting to flex their muscles and saying, hey, we're going to make this Silk Road initiative there. But you know what? While we're at it, we're going to also put some bases in China. And it also said they're going to trade GIs, bring some GIs to Moscow because Russia's involved in this deal with their bases, bring some GIs to Beijing. We're going to send some Beijing people and some people from Moscow to Iran. We're going to, with the Iranian Revolutionary Guard. So, I mean, they refer to the Iranian people, too, about a certain treaty that was signed after a Russian war where they gave so much up to Russia. They're kind of comparing that same deal right now with that particular deal when Iran gave up so much to Russia where the people were so upset back in the days because they gave up too much of their resources, they gave up too much of their leverage to Russia. Well, the same thing's going to happen for China. So this is a murky deal at best. We don't know what's going on. We just have to pay attention to it.
I think it's gonna cause the United States to have a sort of like involvement. I think the United States is more adamantly demand war with China, try to like foment more war with China, and I think it's also going to continue its actions against Iran because of this. That's what we do. So look out for that, for the U.S. empire to react to these countries coming together, because you see this allyship being built on that end, and then ours with Saudi Arabia and Israel. So.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of people who believe there's people within Iran want to eventually, even despite what's happened, despite the regime change, despite the Shah, the Mossadegh being removed, that they want to go back to the West. Right. There's a lot of people who feel that way in Iran. It's not all just cut and dry in Iran. Right. There's a lot of different facets going on, a lot of different rifts within their government.
Which would make like a coup and a sort of overtaking of Iran really like a protest sort of.
They would do what they did before.
Right.
With the Shah. You know what I'm saying? They remove Mossadegh and put him in, and they can do it in the same way because the global kind of mentality is, well, China's raping them and these people want to keep their resources. So, under this other NGO that nobody knows about, like the NED, we're going to go in there and we're going to present regime change and put our own person up there. Who knows? It's a very hard It's a cloudy situation, but we have to pay attention to it. We have to pay attention to what China's doing, and Iran, Russia, United States. There's a lot of global conflicts that can happen right now, and it's scary.
It is scary.
Redneck Economics said, y'all should watch Dark Waters. I said, y'all should watch Dark Waters.
Wonderful.
I want to see that. It's an amazing movie about DuPont poisoning the water and the people. Also, Eleanor Goldfield's Hard Road to Hope.
Okay, I haven't seen the second one, but Dark Waters was awesome. It was really enraging, and that just shows you just how long the fight for justice can take, and how we need really good lawyers, because just class action lawsuits take a lot of time and energy, and it's disgusting that the government can lie, and it was these private companies use the government to lie for them too, so they're in on it, and they don't mind poisoning people and killing people.
All right, so the next one is steal the gold, starve the people. The UK commits to highway robbery of Venezuelan gold, says academic. Fam, we talked about this a long time ago. They seized this gold a long time ago. Mm-hmm. Here comes Venezuela coming back around. Now it's COVID time. Like, we need you to give us that gold. We need to buy resources. We need to buy medication. We need to buy food. We need our gold, but they will not do it. So when it comes to Venezuela, Britain is suffering from split personality disorder, while the UK Foreign Office reportedly maintains full and normal and reciprocal diplomatic relations with legitimately elected President Maduro's government and with Maduro's UK ambassador. The British government has been actively supporting a self-appointed U.S.-backed Juan Guaido who led the coup against Maduro in 2019. Last week, the High Court in London ruled that Juan Guaido was unequivocally recognized as the president of Venezuela. There's just one problem with the ruling, however. Juan Guaido isn't the president. So they're still recognizing this. They're still refusing to release the gold. They're still playing ball. Donald Trump, his State Department, is not doing anything to help the situation.
No, they exacerbated the situation. They essentially caused the situation, too. Like, they did that.
They did cause the situation. This was their coup attempt, and they went forward with it. And
again, Trump is not a non-interventionist.
Yeah.
Like, he's not. Sorry.
At all.
No.
And when it comes to Venezuela and Bolivia, these are his very serious actions right here. I mean, you could say what he's tried to do in Afghanistan is kind of good, whatnot. I don't know. I still think that he made a deal to keep the poppy fields with the Taliban. Say, listen, you can have all your resources, you can have all the area, you can have all your territory back. Just give us the poppy fields so we can do our opium extract, so we can put opioids out to the United States and kill Americans. Johnny, what do you got? What you love? Juan Guaido. Go ahead. Remember this video? This video was so good.
Puppet. Juan Guaido.
You got to install our own puppet, right? Steal that country's natural resources.
The leader to step down. Hey, Maduro, get out of there. 6, install our own puppet. Juan Guaido. Number 7, steal that
I just love it that
country's
you said
natural
puppet.
resources.
For corporate gains, and that's what they're
Our
doing. You know what I'm saying?
puppet.
They're doing the same thing now. They're seizing their gold and whatnot. Guys, thank you for the 10 people over on the ROKFIN and the 230 people on the YouTube.
Thank you.
Now, I don't want to praise or put out there Colin Powell, because we all remember
God.
when he went to the UN and he sold the Iraq war about weapons of mass distraction, is what Reverend Al Sharpton called them, which was one of the best things he ever said, because they were weapons of mass distraction. They allowed and pretty much manufactured consent and fooled the American people, just like they fooled the American people that Obama was a communist socialist. And then we went in to invade Iraq, killing over 1 million people, just destabilizing the whole region. It was one of the worst things of all. I still say to this day that George Bush Jr. was the worst president. He actually legalized torture, and it was disgusting. But we want to talk about, Colin Powell still does have a lot of connections to the military, an ex-military man, and he even talked about the Bounty Gate situation, the way they exacerbated it.
Exacerbated.
Thank you, man. My tongue gets in the way. He was a puppet. Anyways, but listen, this is Colin Powell talking about what they did with the Bounty Gate story. Take a look.
Our military commanders on the ground did not think that it was as serious a problem as the newspapers were reporting and television was reporting. It got kind of out of control before we really had an understanding of what had happened. I'm not sure we fully understand now. But General McKenzie, who is the sink, as I call him in the military, he was commander-in-chief. He has indicated that he did not think that this was of that level of importance to us. Remember, it's not the intelligence community that's going to go fight these guys. It's the guys on the ground. It's our troops. It's our commanders who are going to go deal with this kind of a threat using intelligence that was given to them by the intelligence community. But that has to be analyzed. It has to be adjusted. And then you have to go find out who the enemy is. And I think we were on top of that one, but it got almost hysterical in the first few days. Our military commanders on the ground.
Hysterical in the first, and listen, they actually used this right here, this particular Fugazi story, to actually allow them to vote against the Afghani, potential to end the war. They stood behind this in the House. They used this to put up other roadblocks to pull troops. They used this phony story right here to actually get away with, perpetrating war. Perpetuating war. Perpetuating war. I mean, it was really, really, really bad, fam, what they did. I get really upset when I talk about this situation because it's so aggravating, because this should have been a historic vote.
Mm-hmm.
But they used this phony situation to be at odds with Russia, to keep the nuclear threat on the table. And there's no link to talking with Putin, because all roads lead to Putin, because they're still continue on with their demonizing of Vladimir Putin. We know he's a gangster. They're all gangsters, right? So, I mean, fam, your thoughts on that?
I mean, it's the same bullshit, right? Like, all of these people in power tend to be gangsters, so they trying to get a group of gangsters together to diplomatically talk down war and to pacify things is really difficult, because we don't have a lot of great people in power, especially right now, even in the UK, like what they did to Venezuela. I mean, it's like we have the wrong people in power. And that's the whole thing. Like, it just feels powerless because the military industrial complex and the intelligence agencies are moving the pieces behind the scenes. So I just think I think this is why people need to pay attention to foreign policy, because all of our money is all of our energy is driven by imperialism.
Yeah, I mean, it's the top of the food chain. He said it yesterday. He goes, it's great being with you guys, because a lot of people don't talk about imperialism. And in that book, he talks about it. Fam, I need to have water. I'm too coffee.
Yeah,
amped
you
up
are
over here.
way like cracked
I'm sweating
out.
right
Like
here right now. And too much
he's
coffee.
like here, and I'm just like pasta. Like go a little bit. Like this is like is this what people on cocaine are like? Because
no, this is excited people who are elated, had a good night's sleep, and
you
drank
sure
too
you
much
didn't
coffee.
like?
No, fam, I just did this instead.
See, how is cocaine legal or caffeine legal and weed is not? This is my problem. Okay, so Ghislaine Maxwell, you guys, it's like deja vu. It's like the same thing is happening over again. I feel like I'm in an alternate reality every single day. I wake up.
Does this sound familiar when you put this up? It's like this was the same thing with Epstein.
So they're not even playing around with the narrative. They're just kind of like following right in line. So the feds fear that Ghislaine Maxwell might kill herself. Okay, and so so let's just read a little bit of this. Federal officials were so worried. Jeffrey Epstein's longtime confidant, Ghislaine Maxwell, might take her own life after her arrest that they took away her clothes and bed sheets and made her wear paper attire while in custody, an official familiar with the matter told the Associated Press. The steps to ensure Maxwell's safety while she's locked up at the federal jail in New York extend far beyond the measures federal officials took when they first arrested her in New Hampshire last week. The Justice Department has added extra security precautions and placed federal officials outside the Bureau of Prisons in charge of ensuring there is adequate protection for Maxwell. That's to help prevent other inmates from harming her and to stop her from harming herself, the official said. The concern comes, of course, in part because Epstein, 66, killed himself in a federal jail in Manhattan last summer while in custody on sex trafficking charges, spawning conspiracy theories over his death, despite a medical examiner ruling it a suicide. So,
can we talk about this right off the bat? Like, first of all, it's like everything is so muddy and shady at best. I don't know what to think. Like, why has she turned herself in now? Why? What deal has been connected? I mean, has been made?
Yeah.
Are they going to have her kill herself too as well to put the story asleep? I think there should be a live stream video on her at all times.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think she should be staying at that New York place right there. I think she should be staying in a regular, like, FBI, like, house where they just hold, like, a witness protection program.
I mean, but do we
place.
trust the FBI? This is the thing. Like, it's just like, what do they know? How much do they know? How much are they not telling people? And add to the fact that her old Reddit, supposedly Reddit accounts, and we can talk about this in another video, but her Reddit accounts have been released. Yeah, like supposedly there was, she had a Reddit account under a name that wasn't hers, and people were investigating and said it was hers. And another thing that I was sent was another like a Reddit account of her father's story and the connections he had, not just to Israeli intelligence, but also to the FBI, to the CIA, to like other countries' intelligence, like, and how he was working for all of them.
Robert
and,
Maxwell was a gangster that had connections with Israel, connections with Russia, connections with the Ukraine,
China,
connection with China, connections with the United States. He had connections all over the place. He wasn't a double agent, a triple agent. He was a quadruple 5-time agent.
You know, I told Pasta
Maxwell
when I was younger, I would have loved to be like an agent because that was like always fun. Like I was watching these movies. I'm like, yeah, I could really like totally. I would love to play.
Fam, you're not
an
going to go
agent,
work for the CIA.
No,
the
fam,
FBI
I'm not
agent.
because I'm a good person with a conscience.
Don't scare our audience there. Fiorella is not going to be a double agent at all. She's not joining the FBI
fam.
or the CIA. I don't know, fam. What are you thinking about it now?
I don't know.
Jeez.
You know.
Anyway, so we're going to have to pay attention to what's going on with Ghislaine Maxwell.
Yes.
I'm going to predict. What's your prediction, Johnny? You're going to predict she's going to kill herself, hang herself, disappear, cut a deal?
We're already saying Ghislaine Maxwell didn't kill herself.
I'm saying Ghislaine Maxwell didn't kill herself. They're going to do the same shit that they did with Epstein, which I think they did, which was they got a fake body.
Wow, you think the fake body thing?
It wasn't his ear. It wasn't his ear.
Oh my God. Johnny conspiracy.
And
we don't know, but that's
watch.
not even.
It's not going to be Ghislaine's nose or something. Watch.
Oh, watch. I'd say they're going to have different lips. Pay attention to Ghislaine's lips.
Well, maybe she got some shit on her
They're going to
lips.
say whatever. Oh, she had it. You know what I'm saying?
You can get that.
My favorite
in jail,
meme.
right?
I don't know what you can get. I don't think you can put order. My favorite meme is Hillary Clinton like going, "Hello, suicide hotline.
Suicide
I'd like to
hotline."
place an order for 2 weeks." I like to place an order in 2 weeks. Here goes Ghislaine Maxwell. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's
well, we got to find out more about the thumb drive she has, and
that's what they're saying,
we're
right?
gonna go over the Reddit account, and then the history of Robert Maxwell, because a lot of people don't even know about how deep it is, and how her sisters too have connections to like people in government, people who are very, very powerful. It is insane.
You know, I knew some of the stuff.
Cybersecurity too.
When you sent this, I knew some of the stuff in there. I'm like, all right, I know some of this stuff, but some of the stuff was like kind of, I've learned some stuff about.
Yeah.
Was it the husband that was married to the sister that died mysteriously, but was still married to another woman?
Yeah.
There's like weird, creepy shit that happens to that family all the time.
But also like how the sister has a company that created basically what Robert Maxwell had, where they're spying on people. Like, so it's software that is used for security purposes, but they're basically collecting all of your data, all of your information, and they're involved in that. So it gets really freaking weird once you start reading all this crap.
If you go back, there's a couple movies. I remember one night I spent about 6 hours watching these Robert Maxwell movies, and one of them was kind of like the whitewashed, kind of like this is the businessman. He was upset. He did steal, but it didn't talk about any of his connections. And the other one started talking, oh, wait, what was his connections with the Mossad? What was his connection with American intelligence?
Scientology,
what was his connection with the KGB, all this stuff.
Eugenicists,
the Scientology
like those
stuff.
People, like,
yes.
Holy crap.
There's a lot of crazy connections. So when you hear about transhumanism and the New Mexico ranch, you're like, wait a second, this is still cut from the same cloth as the Maxwells. How deep does it go?
Because they were saying, because in that like thing I read, they were talking about how there was they practiced satanic rituals, and that's the island had all of that set up and ready for them to do that. And like it was a lot of eugenicists, like people who want to do like classify humans according to their race and all of this stuff, like Nazi type of behavior, which is all weird because he's Israeli. So anyway.
It's remember, that's where he retreated to at the very end. He retreated back to Israel, and there's a lot of questions, and it goes deep. And I certainly think that Donald Trump has been part of the cover-up, you know what I'm saying? And that's something that's really, really bothering me, the hiring of Barr, the allowing of Epstein to hashtag he didn't kill himself or he didn't hang himself, whatever the case may be. But I'd like to see some real answers and see what's going on. If there is a thumb drive out there, if there is some information, if there is some footage,
send it to
let's
us.
Get this to us. You know what I'm saying? Send it to the Convo Couch at gmail.com, and we will post it up. Bill Clinton getting down now. So
stop inviting the feds to come over.
They're already here inside the back door. They're listening to everything. All right, super chats, commercial break. First super chat. Let me make sure I get up there. Did I miss him? I didn't see any. No, I think the last one was Redneck Economics or Rednecknomics.
Cool. Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, we want to thank you all for all the super chats yesterday, all the super chats today. You guys are great. You really do help us out. Once again, the ROKFIN, ROKFIN. Ivan, hit us up. We'll send you a shirt.
Make sure you guys like and click like this video, and also click the bell, because a lot of people don't get notified when we go live. We're trying to get over a certain margin of subscribers so we can get more, so we can actually speak to a human being on YouTube, because they constantly demonetize us. You guys saw what they did to Richard Medhurst. You guys saw, they do this to all of us. Yeah. This is why I'm so against censorship of any kind, because they freaking demonetize us all the time. So make sure you're subscribed. If you can, be a Patreon member. We're trying to definitely grow our audience so more people can see great interviews like the ones we did yesterday. So please just help us out. Like, share, subscribe.
We're going to go out and hunt them down. If anybody has any people they want us to interview, and you guys know there's some candidates, or you have connections to anybody really cool that you like to see on the Convo Couch, we're always listening. You can send an email to theconvocouch@gmail.com. As you can see, we're about 29,833 subscribers, but they're trying to keep us from 30,000, because what do you get at 30,000, John?
You get membership on YouTube. So people can become members of the Convo Couch through YouTube. So it's kind of like a Patreon on YouTube.
Yeah. Yep. And you know, a lot of people sign up, so they're trying to, once again, you suppress our economics. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You take away our monetary gains, and therefore you can really keep us down.
Right.
And that's what they're trying to do.
Yeah.
They're doing it across the board. We saw what happened with Dick Medhurst, and that was.
But they're
disgusting,
trying to get us to stop doing this because it's informative. Like, don't think for a second that this is normal. Like, it's really like ridiculous the things that YouTube has done. They're owned by Google, so.
Yeah, and I got proof of a lot of stuff, and
Yeah.
I don't know. We're gonna make a case or something.
Yeah.
So, Pasta, what's up next?
All right, so listen, I'm going to do a little interview with a guy by the name of Richard Idris, who is kind of running the Draft Jesse campaign. If you don't know, the Green Party convention's going on right now. It just started, but tomorrow is supposed to be the first round. A lot of people say a lot of people say, we can say definitively now that there is a FEC filing out there. A lot of complaints from a lot of the candidates. Almost all the candidates are in those complaints.
Wow.
It was filed by one person who was pretty much telling the feds that there's a lot of shady shit going on. I looked through it. We're going to go over it.
The feds?
The FEC,
Oh, okay.
the Federal Elections Committee.
Okay.
Pretty much trying to cause a case where they're going to make Howie either drop out or at least get the delegates to kick it to the second round and make it a contested convention.
Interesting.
It's very,
Sounds
very...
like the Democratic Party.
Oh, yeah. It's almost like a little Democratic Party going in
That's
there.
unfortunate.
Now, listen, if Howie does secure the nomination, he's not going to do anything. He's not going to get above 1%. He has not been able to rally any support. I have no problem after seeing him do that interview with Kit Cabela the other day, the way he acted, that this guy, and the way that George Galloway said, little Howie Hawkins, you know what I'm saying? He's not going to do anything. He's not going to muster up any support. So it is very vital that if Jesse Ventura has a chance to get him in, because he will get above the 5%. He will get on the debate stage. He will elevate all the issues, all the platforms of the Green Party. And we've said this before. The Green Party platform, fam, is what the Democratic platform should be if it was like a good party.
At minimum.
So we're going to pay attention. We're going to talk to Richard Idris. We're going to look at the actual complaints, see if they're legit or not, and then see what the path forward is.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that the Green Party is in this situation. I honestly, I've kept myself out of it because I just don't have the patience to deal with people like you guys should have a formulated approach. You guys should be sticking together so we can take on the establishment, and that's not what's happened. So I don't really have the patience to deal with it. People have been asking me, can you do this? No, Pasta's doing it because I just this is literally the worst time for the party to not have their shit together.
Well, I cut and run from the Green Party where we were going to do the debates, and then nobody got on the same page to do their debates. I mean, Johnny, we ended up doing the trivia thing, but Johnny, did his homework, and he had this whole freaking setup where we can put 4 different people, and we were going to split it in 2. They do these 4 people debate, do that 4 people debate. We were going to actually lift up their social status on social media for them. And they just kind of turned a blind eye.
They
and
were
said,
just
whatever.
too busy quarreling with each other. And it's just like, I see this on the ground with my own activist community. And it's literally what keeps us from doing really good work. So I just don't have the patience for it.
So for my good friend George Galloway here, I am Pasta Jardula.
Fiorella.
And Johnny Sue is on the 1s and 2s.
Convo out.
We're taking a commercial break.
We're taking a commercial break.
Yeah, that's
what
I'm
coming right back.
Convo
My bad.
break.
So Convo break.
It's really quick break. 1 minute break. Stay tuned.
Yeah, we'll be back. Or he'll be back.
Thank you, Cannabis. Welcome back to the Convo Couch, my humans, Pasta Jardula, and Johnny Sue still spinning on those ones and twos, and now we're calling him Brother Sue after we had Cornel West on yesterday. If you remembered watching the interview, I asked Cornel West at the end if he would possibly go out and support Jesse Ventura if he got the nomination. Well, he thought that Howie Hawkins had already sewn up the nomination, but there's a little bit of a sunshine, a little bit of a ray of light, a little bit of an avenue that still might see someone else get the nomination other than Howie Hawkins. So we've brought on a special guest. I've been talking to this guy for a little while. His name is Richard Idris. And Richard Idris, tell us what you do, what you're all about, and what's going on.
Hey, well, what's going on, folks? My name's Richard Idris. I work with the People for Jesse. That's the Draft Jesse Ventura campaign. We're a draft committee that's intending to secure Governor Ventura a path to the nomination and to the presidency in the fall.
Okay. So how did you get started on this? What made you get involved with drafting Jesse?
Well, in my political time, I started getting involved when I was in high school. In 2008, I campaigned for Obama. In 2012, I sat out because I felt pretty disillusioned after his first 4 years in office and all of his appointees, his cabinet. In 2016, I was behind Bernie until he lost the nomination, and I ended up voting for Jill Stein. And here in 2020, I was behind Bernie again up until recently. And when I heard about the possibility of Jesse Ventura getting the Green Party nomination, I was all on board.
Okay. Well, a lot of people are going to say right off the jump that, well, even Howie Hawkins said it on this show. He's not a candidate. He didn't run. He didn't campaign. And then people who are pro-Jesse who want him to run, well, he had the RT situation. He couldn't run right away. He would lose his job, his wife with her possible health care issues. So he even said he would wait to the last moment. But why don't you tell us about Ralph Nader and what happened in 1996? Because a lot of people can't grasp the fact that even though that Jesse didn't run, there still is a chance for him to be the nominee. Go ahead and tell us about Ralph Nader, 1996.
Yeah, definitely. So 1996, the Green Party finally was confronted with a choice. Do we nominate a presidential candidate and try and get ballot access and more eyes on the party, or do we just keep going purely for local seats? And there was a division within the party, but the California Green Party led the way with drafting Ralph Nader, who repeatedly said, I have no plans to run for president. If you nominate me, I won't campaign on your platform. I might do a couple of events speaking. And they still kept drafting him at the convention, the presidential nominating convention in 1996. The parties decided to put Ralph Nader on the ballot and seek to get him write-in and independent access in the other instances where they didn't have party access. So
he didn't campaign and run for it, but they gave it to him anyways. They drafted him.
He did not campaign at all, and they drafted him to run for office. And then after getting the nomination, did not endorse the platform and didn't even really run. He gave a couple of public appearances, and that was it. Compare that to Jesse Ventura, who's already endorsed the platform and would actually run for office if he was given the nomination, and has more name recognition than Ralph Nader.
Yeah.
Right? Like everything lines up for why don't we endorse Jesse Ventura? But so some context that people need to understand is Howie Hawkins and that kind of sect of the Green Party didn't believe in electoral politics. And Hawkins was part of the group that was opposed to the draft of Nader in 1996. So there's some context there for why there's opposition from some of these insiders to the Draft Jesse movement. But, I mean, to be honest, it seems antithetical to grassroots democracy to box out write-in candidates.
Yeah. And we'll get a little bit deeper to that, but also there was a situation with Eisenhower. What happened with Eisenhower?
Yeah.
A lot of people don't realize that Truman got us into Korea, Eisenhower got us out. So when you think Republicans are more hawkish than Democrats, that's not necessarily the case. And Eisenhower was looked at as, even though he was a general, was more of this anti-imperialistic mentality and wanted to kind of get us out. What happened with him?
Yeah, so Eisenhower repeatedly said he had no plans to run for office. In 1948, there was a slight draft campaign for him. They wanted him to get the Republican or the Democratic nomination. They just wanted him on a ticket, which sounds kind of familiar.
Yeah.
And then come the next election cycle, Dwight Eisenhower ended up insisting repeatedly, I'm not running for office. popular movement resumed once again. Folks were making films about him. He got shown a film when he was in Paris that brought him to tears, begging him to run. He had his name put on the New Hampshire primary ballot without his consent, and he won the primary. It went all the way to a contested convention, and the draft movement for Eisenhower convinced him to, in the month leading up to that, start hinting at the possibility of running. And at the convention, made it very clear he would accept the nomination because the other nominee, I believe it was Taft.
Yeah.
He refused to commit to an international strategy. So it came down to Taft wasn't going to back the same political positions that Eisenhower was. So he finally decided to step in. And I think we have a pretty apt comparison here with how Howie has still endorsed our imperial incursion in Syria versus how Jesse Ventura is decidedly anti-imperialist. Once again, right?
Yeah.
And we're supposed to be an anti-war party, the Green Party. So, we can get into that.
Yeah.
But long story short, how Eisenhower was drafted into the nomination and then went on to win the presidency.
Yeah. I mean, I think that Howie's been trying to walk back that interview with Primo Nutmeg a long time ago when he pretty much said, and I was so surprised because he was sitting there, pointing the finger at Russia. Meanwhile, his party has been under attack because of Jill Stein and the false accusations they've been making about Putin and Jill Stein, which was just horrible. It's McCarthyism at its biggest. But let me ask you, how has the Hawkins campaign handled this idea when they were approached about the fact that they could have a populist candidate? Because let's be honest, Howie Hawkins is not going to get above 1%, let alone 5%. But how did they handle this? And I also want you to unpack what's at stake here about maybe not even just winning. I mean, I think there's a good chance that Jesse can do that. But the 5%, the ballot access, what it does for the Green Party, the debate stage. How is the Hawkins campaign handle this when they approached him and saying, hey, we have a populist who's going to adopt a platform that we can run in Jesse Ventura?
Well, I don't know if you have the screenshot queued up, or could I screen share this? Because I have the perfect screenshot to show for this.
Yeah, screenshot it.
You want me to share it?
Yes.
Okay, you got to enable it on the Zoom. I feel like we're in a meeting. Oh, we are.
It's okay. We are in a meeting here.
Yeah.
Hold on.
Don't worry, it's safe for work. Well, it's Andrea.
You know what? You can send it to me right now, and I'll give it to Johnny.
Yeah, that sounds good. Here.
Text it to me. Oh, you're enabled. Go ahead, try it.
Oh, sweet. Here we go.
This is Hawkins, ladies and gentlemen.
So this is his campaign staff, two major members of it, responding to the initial letter of interest.
All right, so tell us who Andrea Moretta Cellular is, because this name has been coming up for a long time, Andrea.
So some relevant context here. Andrea is Howie Hawkins' campaign manager. She's Presidential Campaign Support Committee, the PCSC, and what they do is they determine who receives support from the party during the primary. They do things such as manage who gets advertised, who gets their press releases posted on like official GPUS website and channels, media appearances, funding, and now they also manage ballot placement too. So if you didn't get PCSC support, you were a write-in candidate. So Andrea was responding to a letter of interest that Jesse Ventura wanted to explore getting the nomination to run in 2020. Mm-hmm. And for the record, she thought it was asinine. You can see, I will oppose any move to try and get him considered as a candidate for nomination. She went as far as to call it stupid G.I. Joe bullshit, and say we ought to get rational people appointed to the PCSC. In other words, this was let's rig the top level of the process in order to prohibit this from happening. And these screenshots, I know it says 15 weeks ago, but my understanding is this is late 2018 or early 2019 when these were taken. This is July 17th up here, so I'm assuming late 2018.
All right. So it was a long time ago when Jesse said this a long time ago. I remember they caught Jesse at the airport.
The other person in the screenshot that's super relevant is Brendan Hobbs Phillips, who's saying time to load up, rig the committees. What he ends up doing for the party now, he manages ballot access both for the party and for the Howie Hawkins campaign.
Yes.
In other words, he's the one who determines if the party's likely to be on the ballot in the fall. And he's been prioritizing working on Howie's campaign's ballot access rather than the party's ballot access, which mirrors Hawkins' statements where he said that if he loses the Green Party nomination, he would be willing to still run against the party.
All right, come back to us so I can look at your face and ask some questions.
All right, let's do this.
All right, thank you. So once again, we saw that video, Jesse Ventura at a airport a long time ago, and he's like, "Are you thinking about running for president?" He's like, "Well, the Greens have contacted me," and that was a long time ago. I think he did stay out of the way until Bernie Sanders' campaign was wrapped up. If Bernie Sanders had gotten the nomination,
the vibe I got too.
Have a draft Jesse movement or see Jesse have interest in stuff. But since it is Biden and Trump, I think it's the whole like, well, now it's time to kind of get in there. So let's pull up the complaint we have that was filed. The FEC, right? So
yeah, let's get into this.
We have it, and I put up the enforcement. You can see right over here. It says this complaint is true and correct to the best of my knowledge, and we sent it off. The Notary Republic from Florida. It has been sent off. This has now been filed to the FEC, and it's out there. It has now been made public. How does that change things before we go into the actual document itself?
I love the GIF. Yeah. So the way that this changes things, it puts pressure on the party, because what it tells the party is if they go through with nominating Howie Hawkins, the folks who filed this are going to continue to press for a lawsuit based off of these FEC violations. And they're also going to move for an injunction to be filed against the party. And that could either end up with the party losing ballot access or with Hawkins losing the nomination. They're leaning towards Hawkins should lose the nomination, because obviously everyone's goal is to grow the party, but Hawkins's claim to the nomination is illegitimate. And so this helps to put some pressure in that regard, because it would force the Hawkins campaign as well as the Green Party to fund a defense against this lawsuit. And do we want to get into the specifics?
The Democratic Party lawsuit, which we can go pick whoever we want, whatever. And you said that came out of what times did that argument come out of when this was segregation time, right? This was slavery time, maybe, no?
So for folks who might not be all the way up to date, the 2016 Debbie Wasserman Schultz DNC lawsuit about her primary, the precedent that the DNC lawyers drew on to defend that they could do whatever the hell they want was based off of a decision from the segregation era, where the conclusion was it was okay to exclude black people from polling locations.
Yeah,
because it was a private party. It wasn't a public election.
Yeah, and they used that same argument, and that was the Jared Beck case. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I think our comrade Nico House was actually in the courthouse when they said that. And to me, that was one of the biggest hits in the face ever to see that. Like, wow, the Democratic Party is telling you that their primary is undemocratic. And they can do what the hell they want. And it's not just, people of color now. Now it's political rivals.
Yeah.
Now it's even more sinister, because now it's just anybody they want to throw out at any time, and they are using that argument. It's pretty disgusting. Now, before we get to the exhibits and look about what has been filed and the claims against Howie Hawkins, because Howie said, what are the exact claims? I mean, that claim that you're accusing me of is like saying, have you stopped beating your wife? I think he said the other day. It was a disgusting interview. It just shows you the lack of leadership from Howie Hawkins, the fact that he's generated no excitement, no support, less than 5,000 votes total, less than 200 votes in New York when there's 20,000 Greens, and that's his hometown.
30,000 almost, actually.
But let's
even
talk,
worse.
Richard. What's that, Rich?
30,000 almost. It's even worse.
And he had less than 200 votes. Let's talk about what's at stake here, because even if Jesse doesn't win, he will more than likely get the numbers to get the 5% and the debate stage. What does that actually mean for the Green Party as a whole? And what does that mean for the country who liked the Green Party platform if Jesse can get in and lift them up?
Well, if Jesse would be able to get into the party and lift them up, we would actually have a viable option to pressure the Democrats and Republicans to listen to the people in this country rather than moneyed interests. When Ventura was in office, he banned lobbyists and all forms of lobbying. He didn't want to deal with it. He didn't listen to it. And that would be a pretty great precedent to have in our presidential nominee if we're looking at rooting out corruption in the government.
Yep.
You know, obviously electing one person isn't going to drain the swamp like how Trump put it. But Jesse Ventura is a pretty damn good start because he knows how to call out BS when he sees it. Like if you watch any interview with reporters that try and nail him with questions about like the Chris Kyle situation, he's not afraid to call them bad questions and even use worse language.
What does 5% mean for the party?
What does 5% mean for the party? It means matching federal funds.
There you go.
Going forward. It also means ballot access across all 50 states.
There you go.
Which means we don't have to deal with this petition bullshit anymore.
There you
we
go.
would be on a level playing field with the DNC and the RNC, and we could just focus on promoting candidates instead of getting signatures on a piece of paper. Like,
yeah, I mean, it means
they put
so
all
much.
these barriers in the way on purpose. So why
Think
don't we
about the
pick a
debate
candidate
stage.
who can help us shatter them and get into the debate stage? That's 15% polling. Which is, he was polling at 18% from an internal poll that they did before I got involved. It was with the exploratory committee, and I believe a Fox poll too.
Yeah, I mean, if he becomes
without
the
even
nomination,
announcing,
if he becomes the nominee, it's gonna catch on like fire. People are frustrated. We had Dr. Cornel West on yesterday, and Dr. Cornel West tried to sell us the reason to vote for Joe Biden. And I told Dr. Cornel West, and I can't believe I said it, but I was like, Doctor, you're not doing a good job of selling us Joe Biden. You know why? It is, though, Rich, because it's an impossible task. People don't want to vote for Joe Biden. They don't want it for Donald Trump. If Jesse Ventura comes and secures this nomination, forget about it. He'll get way over that 15%. And I think that Donald Trump would love to get him on the debate stage because it's, you know, it's entertainment, baby. It's like, come on.
Yeah.
You're like, I don't think he'll back away from that, and he'll be too much pressure. Oh, Donald Trump, you're avoiding a debate with Jesse Ventura. You know, Joe Biden might not even realize who Jesse Ventura is and probably will think he's a cartoon character. But let's go over this. And the first question I have, really, the last question I have before we get to the rules and the conflict of interest, why do you think the Howie Hawkins campaign and the people who align themselves with Hawkins and that whole kind of group, why do they not want Jesse Ventura to get this nomination? If they know, and they got to know, that Howie Hawkins is not going to generate any support, is not going to get even. I don't think Howie Hawkins is going to get 0.5%, let alone 1%, let alone 5%. Why are they stopping this from happening?
Well, there's three theories that are out there. One is incompetence. The other is ego. You know, that includes why he's changed his title to being a founder of the party when he was really a representative of the Clamshell Alliance who joined the party. And the third option, which a lot of folks have voiced now, is it's controlled opposition. You know, and the more evidence that gets presented to the Green Party that this isn't the way to go, and yet they stubbornly dig in their heels and continue to want to nominate a pro-war candidate, the more that I'm willing to say it could be controlled opposition. You know, get your tinfoil hats on if you want, but maybe they're valid here, folks. The libertarians are dealing with the same BS with Joe Jorgensen being for our foreign interventions too.
Yeah.
What's going on? It's the one election where people are sick of the two main nominees and the third parties bring up pro-war candidates. Really? Like, honestly? Give me a break. If there's
ever a time to have a third-party candidate have their shit together, this is the time, and they don't. And, you know, I mean, I know there's a lot of that speculation about how George Soros is involved with certain people. I don't know about that. I haven't dug deep enough, but it's looking awfully suspicious, the fact that they don't want to put Jesse Ventura forward, knowing right now that Howie Hawkins nor Dario Hunter or any of these people can really, you know, get a really good amount of support to get them above 5%, to match those funding, to get the ballot access. This should be a Green Party dream scenario to have Jesse Ventura, who's going to support their platform, who walked away from the Libertarians because why? A Green New Deal is his most important issue. We already know he's an anti-imperialist. His book, 64 documents, he can tell you specifically how the United States government has screwed over the people and thrown us into wars, lying, whatnot. He was always the first to do it. He's been against the two-party duopoly for God knows how long. This is a dream candidate over here. I'm a Tulsi-crat, and I would tell you right now, I'll take Jesse over Tulsi simply because he's against the two-party system. So it should be a dream scenario, and instead we have this serious resistance and this accusations of cheating, mainly in the conflict of interest, I think is the biggest thing, where you see people on cross committees also working for the Howie Hawkins campaign. That's something to look at. So let's get right down to it. Exhibit 1.1, the PCSC rules. the conflict of interest. Now, this looks like this is a conflict of interest between the coordination agreement between the media committee and the presidential campaign support committee, the PCSC, which we hear about it so much. What does this mean exactly?
Yeah, so basically this document it outlines the rules that govern the way that the PCSC is intended to function and who should be allowed to be members of the committee and help determine the rules. And there used to be a clause about conflict of interest stating, pretty clearly the TLDR, if you're involved with a campaign or endorsing a candidate, you can't be on the committee that determines which candidates get help.
Exactly.
Which makes sense.
It makes a lot of sense. Because if you're on the Hawkins campaign and you're on that committee, you can pretty much ostracize all the other candidates and put forth your candidate. It is a serious
And what do you think
conflict of
happened?
interest. Yeah.
So this first page we're seeing, that's the old the old rules.
Yeah, that's right.
Yes. Which gives you to the 1.2 where the PCSC changes their rules as of 6/14. Now, we've seen this before, too, with the Democratic Party, how undemocratic it is, how you start moving the goalpost in the middle of the games. The old ones were 1.1. This is 1.2. Tell us about this one. And this is just recently, 6/14/2020.
Oh, yeah. They just scrubbed all the conflict of interest comments. There's no rule about that anymore, huh? right when all the public knowledge started coming out about, hey, look at how all these folks were on the PCSC, and some of them still are, who have ties to the Hawkins campaign in some way. And they've been going in and out. I don't think Andrea is officially on the PCSC anymore, but there's always someone who has a tie to him somewhere on there.
She had her connection. She once was. And Andrea comes up so many times. Andrea, whatever. She comes up all the time and stuff like that. So I'd like to ask Howie Hawkins out there, what about this conflict of interest, Howie? Got anything to say? This is a particular, remember, you said that the accusations, Howie, were so vague and so big. How about your conflict of interest when you have all these people on your campaign and on committees that are deciding which candidates get treatment or not, certain treatment or not? Answer that, Howie. Let's look at the next one. Exhibit 2, Howie Hawkins is running as a candidate with multiple parties in violation of the GPUS bylaws. Is this true that it is a violation to run for more than one party? And how does he walk this one back?
Yeah, so for context here, Howie Hawkins also got the nomination of the Socialist Party, and Angela Walker, I believe, is a member of the Socialist Party, and they're supposed to be like a unity ticket. And the intent is that they would get ballot access and the endorsement of both parties across the board. However, there's a specific rule in the PCSC that says candidates that are a registrant or otherwise a member of another national level political party in your primary state of residence do not qualify for official support. Whereas Howie Hawkins is considered a member of the Socialist Party. They always default to he's a registered Green, but he's got their nomination. And he's also on the record as saying he would continue to run even if he didn't get the Green Party nomination. So
there's
I think
gray
that's
area there, right? Now he hasn't fully accepted it, but he's kind of winked that he will accept it if the Green Party pushes him out.
If you look at the Socialist Party, they advertise that their ticket is Hawkins Walker. He can dance around the edges all he wants, but call a spade, right? He's their nominee. He hasn't officially accepted it. It's just dancing around the issue, and especially because he's claimed to. You know what I'm saying?
I'm saying the FEC might not take that. FEC might not take that one, and they might throw that one out and say, okay, he hasn't accepted it, whatnot. But it is a conflict of interest. What?
There's an important caveat to that, which is that so ballot fusion, it's electoral fusion is the idea, is when a candidate is listed along the ballot line of multiple parties. If the Socialist Party USA has a ballot line in a state outside of, I believe there's only 7 or 8 in the country where it's legal to do this, and Hawkins is listed as the nominee for both the Socialist Party and the Greens, the party could just lose its recognition in that state and lose access to its ballot line.
Yeah.
Could also face punishment by the Secretary of State. This is a state-by-state issue. The Republicans and Democrats have thrown loads of money at it because when the third parties do shit like that, they're able to get a candidate in office. And so they've made it very hard for that to be legal. And so for them to just boldface do that, They're treading water here, treading very dangerous waters.
All right, let's go on to Exhibit 3. Andrea Merida Cellular. I used to call it Andrea Mierda Conflicts of Interest over here. Tell us about this one, Exhibit 3 over here. The Green Party United States and a media committee members and the conflict of interest between somebody working for the media team and the actual campaign is one of the worst conflicts of interest right now because they determine who gets all the media attention for the very low budget they have. So
and they determine the quality of the coverage too.
What's that?
They determine the quality of it too, you know?
Exactly. So explain this one to us right here.
Yeah, so Exhibit 3 is outlining how Andrea was on the payroll simultaneously for the Hawkins campaign while she was also a committee member for both the media committee as well as her state party. And she was a member of, actually, she still is, of the Bylaws, Rules, Policies, and Procedures Committee.
Yeah.
Go figure, she gets to determine all the rules. As
exactly.
well as help control promotion.
This is the serious conflict of interest right there. That to me is like one of the more damning things right there when you see that she's part of this committee, part of the media committee, part of the state committee, that they're going to determine the rules for somebody she's already working for it with and is on their payroll. So that's a serious one right there, Exhibit 3, I think, especially when you start seeing media committees come into play. That is really something serious.
That'd be like Joe Biden having
a contract with MSNBC. Right?
Yeah.
like he's working with MSNBC and he's, somebody, let's say Simone Sanders, working as a campaign manager for Joe Biden, having a contract with MSNBC, that determines their media coverage. Part of the media coverage team, not somebody who just works for them, but somebody who determines the actual coverage.
And then she's also in the Democratic Party committee.
As well. And also the Democratic Party committee too as well of a state. Of a single state,
just
let's
so
say,
we can paint that picture.
Yeah. So that's what we see going on over here. Great analogy, John. So
yeah, that's a perfect one.
Let's go to Exhibit 4. Tell me about this one. Wow.
Exhibit 4. This is Kathy Woodward, and I haven't spoken too much with Kathy, so I don't want to step on their words too much. I'll let them speak for themselves. I know what I've heard is that despite being co-chair, they've been silenced by the council below them, who are Hawkins supporters. The Lavender Caucus, for those who are unfamiliar, the Green Party has a series of caucuses for underrepresented groups. Lavender Caucus is for LGBTQ. There's a Black Caucus. There's going to be an Indigenous Peoples Caucus, etc. So Andrea Merida, this screenshot here of her email helps corroborate that she was herself spouting what the rules were for the PCSC, that candidates would swear in writing that they are not a member of any party that has ballot lines and that they'll give a legitimate attempt to appear on state ballot lines demonstrated by petitioning efforts. So in other words, they would work for the Green Party to establish ballot lines, not another party's. And so that's a major contradiction with what Hawkins has said, again, with where he said he would continue to run. Yet he still maintained full support from the PCSC. He has access to the donor list and everything.
So they really had their thumb on the scale, so to say, the Howie Hawkins campaign, and they used every single power they could. What do you say to those people out there who say that they're just playing, they're just throttling a little bit, or they're kind of bending the rules a little bit, and this is just in-party bickering, that these other people aren't serious candidates anyways, and what Hawkins did is not, it might not be ethical, but it's not 100% illegal.
But I like to put it into context for these folks. Look, registration for the two major political parties is at an all-time low for a reason. People are tired with all the insider BS. So what does it say that one of their most viable third options is replicating that same bullshit? Give us a break. Give us a real option. This isn't something that any of us want to sign on to. In a month, we've gotten around 10,000 people to swear that they would register Green and vote for Jesse Ventura. They have a petition running where they want to get 7 million people to vote Green to get the 5%, but they're still turning us away. What's going on?
Well, what's going on is they want to keep their power within their small little party. They don't want the responsibilities of getting about over 5%. they're a bunch of fugazis that are running that party.
What they don't get is there's too many eyes on the party now. The clubhouse isn't going to keep standing after this if they don't go with the grassroots movement.
Yeah. They're gonna miss one of the best opportunities they ever had. I know Nader was a powerhouse, but he's a powerhouse after the fact, years after his light really started to shine. Jill Stein, she was great too, but I wasn't even crazy about Jill. I mean, Cynthia McKinney was great, but Jesse Ventura, I mean, this guy has got one of the most watched shows on RT. Even right now, he doesn't even tweet that much, right? He's not a big tweeter. He tweets every once in a while. He's still got like 175,000 followers when he hardly even tweets. Can you imagine taking to the Twitter sphere? Just like Tulsi, that number started to grow and grow and grow and grow. And so many of the Tulsi-crats that were behind Tulsi that are maybe even looking to vote for Donald Trump or third-party libertarian, which they don't even like JoJo because JoJo is pro-war and against Tulsi herself. I mean, they're going to miss a enormous opportunity. And I tell all these people out there who were Bernie-crats, who wanted a third-party viability, who wanted him to go when Jill Stein stepped aside. Jill Stein said, here, Bernie, come run on the Green Party. I'll let you use our platform. They're going to miss an opportunity. Those Bernie people, they need to get on this boat and start pushing for this right here because this is the last option. There's 2 seconds left. We need a Hail Mary, and we need it now. And Jesse Ventura, if he can throw that ball down the field, let's do it.
We don't need a movement for a people's party. We have a people's party. Let's move to it and make it ours. Like, there's what I like to put into context for people, too, is one Bernie rally would win the primary. That's how few people have voted in it.
Yeah.
If people just cared, like, we could just take over. Like, and I don't mean that in a hostile way because we agree with the agenda of the party. There's just some corrupt folks in charge who for some reason aren't okay with this.
That's why there needs to be a movement for the People's Party until the Green Party breaks. If you break through,
we got to put pressure on them.
I think you'll see a lot of those people come over there, and I'd hope that Jesse Ventura would get in touch with Nick Brana, and all those other people, talk to them. But the reason why they're doing what they need to do is because the Libertarian Party and the Green Party pull this shit and they get away with it. They're small parties that they have control, and until we break through, we do need that apparatus out there. Because let me tell you something: if it doesn't work this time with the Greens, I'm not gonna pay attention to the Greens.
Oh yeah,
period. If they nominate Hawkins, they're done. They're done. Number 5, Exhibit 5, former PCSC member, and tell us exactly too what the PCSC is, because I don't think we talked about the strength that the PCSC has. His name is Ron Birch, raises concerns about conflict of interest in favor of the Hawkins campaign during the 2020 primary. I believe this is that guy in Ohio, right?
Yeah, I believe you're right on that. So the PCSC, the Presidential Campaign Support Committee, the strength that it has, it gives you access to, they'll shout out the press releases that you release. They'll send them out to media outlets and post them on their social media for the party. They'll also ensure that you're on the ballot in every state, which seems like a big one. They'll also give you extra funding. They'll give you access to the donor list. They'll also give you the access to the list of registered Greens. If you don't have PCSC support, good luck trying to phone bank for your Green Party election because you won't know who a registered Green is. They hide that information unless you get approval first.
They hog the donor list. They hog the actual Greens. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and then you start a grassroots movement because you can't get in contact with any Greens, and then they say, "Wait, but you're not all real Greens. You just started. How many meetings have you been to?" We're like, "None, because we're new. Let us join."
Yeah, I hear you.
But they don't tell us the primaries.
So let's read what he said. He said, Ron Birch, Kyle Tucker, what's also important is that we are viewed to have a democratic and fair primary. Since most Greens have a lot to say about unfair and undemocratic primaries with the Democrats. So far, this primary has been anything but. Here are some of the examples. 1, the national co-chairs openly supporting, volunteering, and working for certain presidential candidates publicly while refusing to stay neutral and openly educating voters in the party and out why they would support the candidate they support while in their positions of power. What is that?
So that's like what Andrea was saying earlier. They are refusing to stay neutral. They want to promote one specific candidate. There's more specifics about that later when we get into the violations of like Michael O'Neill. Yeah.
Perfect. All right. So the GPUS committee chair, co-chairs, and the committee members openly supporting, volunteering, and working for certain presidential candidates publicly while refusing to stay neutral and openly educating voters in the party and out why they should support the candidate they support while in positions of power. It says Greens in leadership positions with the party nationally, locally, and statewide in countless states, he puts countless big, openly supporting, volunteering, and working for certain presidential candidates publicly while refusing to stay neutral and openly educating voters within the party out and why they should support the candidate they support. So in other words, we keep hearing about this conflict of interest, They're co-chairing.
At every level.
At every level, every state, numerous states, not every state, but numerous states. Here's another one. State parties and Greens in leadership giving platforms at state parties and functions to select a candidate and refusing an equal platform for all the presidential candidates and even refusing to invite them all. Can you tell us a little bit about that? Because I know you heard about, Nico House talked about this too, and we brought this to light.
Oh, yeah, I believe that also gets addressed here later on, too, because Dario Hunter filed a complaint specifically relating to that. But there was a series of presidential forums that were official ones where certain candidates were just denied access, or they said there weren't going to be any presidential candidates there, but Howie Hawkins ended up being a keynote speaker.
Wasn't there a time where I heard Chad Wilson kind of talk about this a lot, where they kind of tried to address it and they tried to put Howie on the spot, and he goes, well, it's up to them who they want, and I guess that Dario Hunter said he'll pass or something like that, where they weren't giving ample amount of speaking time. Have you heard anything about that? They remain silent on the situation themselves.
Yeah, so Dario passed when asked a question at a debate, I believe, in Ohio, in regards to the unequal application of the PCSC rules to exclude certain candidates. He just said pass, and they just moved on. I think William Pounds also shared that clip pretty passionately.
William Pounds is in the chat today. Hi, Williams.
Yeah.
Poor William Pounds.
Thank
He's
you,
been
William.
so worked up, this guy, right? William Pounds has been just working it hard. He's been disappointed at times. I know the whole situation where we got here. William, thank you for being such a great comrade and fighting to get the truth out there and bringing all this information to light through the Convo Couch. Appreciate that, William Pounds. I know you got some Convo Couch shirts. Wear them proudly, and we love you, William Pounds. State parties actively trying to double the requirements in order for presidential candidates getting their names on the state ballot, actively working to try and make it where only one particular candidate qualifies for the ballots and purposely making it more difficult for other candidates to get on the ballot. Collusion with state parties actively propping up one particular campaign over the others. And what incidents did they do this?
The best examples of this would be in Massachusetts, David Rauld's home state. He didn't end up with ballot access there, despite being a longtime member of the Massachusetts Green Party. Just for political reasons, he's been ostracized from certain official events before. I know Jill Stein has mistreated him pretty harshly. Another example of that is North Carolina, where literally the requirements were doubled, and the only candidate on the ballot was Howie Hawkins. And my favorite part of this is he almost lost to none of the above when he was the only candidate on the ballot.
I know, I saw that.
Yeah.
When did they change these rules, though, in North Carolina and in Massachusetts? Did they change them mid-game, or were these rules changed in the beginning? When they said they were changed, do you know when they were changed?
I personally don't have knowledge on the dates when the state rules were changed.
But a lot of them were changed on the fly, right?
Yeah, a lot of them were changed on the fly and changed leading up to this election, right around the time when we started to hear about Jesse Ventura testing the waters, back with that TMZ clip.
Also, sign-in ballots were changed, right? There were sign-in situations in certain states.
Yeah, write-in ballots.
Tell us about that.
So there are certain states. So for context here, the GPUS, Green Party United States, has its own set of rules governing elections, yet says that their rules are non-binding and states can make their own rules. So the GPUS says write-in candidates should be recognized, but individual states can choose to say whatever the hell they want. So some states decided to say only approved write-ins will count. And what is an approved write-in in those states? A candidate that has not yet gotten PCSC support but has indicated that they want to run. So what does that do? That boxes out draft movements, like one for a candidate who hasn't actively started campaigning yet, aka like a draft Jesse Ventura movement. So a literal grassroots movement gets boxed out from the option that's available for grassroots movements to nominate a candidate based off of technicality. I know that happened in Arizona. Certain states, write-in was not an option on the ballot. In Oregon, write-in was not an option, but Jesse Ventura was actually set to be on the ballot. And then a week prior, Aaron Fox called and said, nope, he's not going to run anymore. Take him off the ballot. And then the Jimmy Dore and the Primo Nutmeg interviews dropped where he said, I wanted the nomination still, but the Greens told me there was no way. So there's been this layer of disinformation reaching him.
You know, it's kind of funny because I thought, you know, when I spoke to Aaron Fox, is that he said that he was just disheartened the fact that they couldn't write him in. You know what I'm saying? That Jesse was disheartened that he couldn't be written in. So you're saying that they were told to pull him off, and they
in
changed
Oregon,
the rules
they got contacted by Aaron Fox, and he said Jesse Ventura will not seek the nomination, period. And then they took him off the ballot. And the co-chair of Oregon has spoken with both William and myself, and has indicated that they were very upset about that when they learned about Jesse's continued interest. When he said he would write himself in for the general election, they were really upset because they knew that meant he still wanted a nomination.
So did Aaron represent Jesse officially at one point?
So here's the thing. Aaron kept claiming that they were a draft campaign, and as a draft campaign, they put up the FEC notice that they do not have direct coordination with a candidate, which means he can't discuss strategy with a candidate. But then he would keep releasing these statements saying that he spoke to Jesse Ventura. So he either violated FEC guidelines and tried to strategize with Jesse Ventura, or he's lying. And he's deleted a lot of these posts once we've screenshotted them, and we just have documentation of them. So I kind of lean towards the latter.
I like Aaron.
I like him as a person. You know, I don't want to sit here and rag on him, but there's some fishy stuff happening here, and he kind of played a role in it.
All right.
You know?
Yeah. All right, let's go on to the next one. Exhibit 6, because I mean, changing the rules midstream. This is a cool one. Now, I don't know if this is illegal. This is probably unethical. I don't know what the FEC is going to do about it, but I think the public should know about this because we're going to talk about it. Johnny, if you could clip onto the one in the middle with the blue and the white there, when it says, this is Exhibit 6. Hawkins campaign manager doxed a rival primary candidate to a large group of low-level volunteers between April and May 2020. Nico House did a show about this, talking about the doxing. Now, this is just something that's really messed up, and it says right here, Andrea E. Merida, are you available to chat? She's like, how can I help you? Oh, I'm asking about a rumor about Howie doxing people or the other way around. I have been given files about this, and I was just wondering if this is a misinformation, if this is misinformation or a hoax. And she's, I heard something about that. We did what campaigns always do, opposition research. There's a political newbie who always seems to have who seems to have been a mole. I guess she's talking about Chad, probably, that is not understanding the pulling up of public records on your opposition is the pulling up of public records on your opposition is campaigning 101. Doxing is something completely different. It means trying to get people fired or evicted or whatever. That's not what we did. Oh, well, it's weird. I was given these, and it shows that they pulled up a lot of stuff over here. I don't know if we can see it, can't see it clearly, but they pulled up bank records. They pulled up other stuff. They got information on these low-level people, these low-level groups. What is your opinion about that, and what have you heard from other Greens when it comes to this particular tactic?
Man, so for the record, I think the reason why they included it is Andrea had also tried to approach, I know I saw on Twitter, she would badger people for their personal information as to what state they lived in and what political party they were registered with, how long they've been with the Greens, etc. The point was that she goes into intimidating candidates and voters into not participating, which, you know, voter intimidation is considered questionable. But so from an ethical standpoint, though, Andrea is trying to compare this to like pressing Trump to release his tax returns. But what she did was just dug through the history of one of the presidential candidates and just encouraged people to dump on him for like being divorced at a young age.
Which candidate?
I believe it was Chad, but I'm not 100% sure. I think she might have done it on a few candidates, but don't quote me on that part. I know that she did it at least on Chad. She defends it as being completely different because her goal wasn't to get him fired or evicted. My argument would be, do we really want to use the dirty PR slander tactics that the mainstream press and the Democrats and the Republicans want to use? Like, what does it matter that a candidate was married and divorced young in the context of them running for office now when they're over 35 if they want to be elected president? It's all of this is just nonsense to try and discredit someone's character. It doesn't look good on the party. The folks that I talk to about this are pretty embarrassed to be associated with it as a progressive party because it's hostile tactics. It doesn't invite people to join the movement. You know, what are you going to do? You're going to dig through everyone. Are you going to pull my credit report because I'm on Convo Couch now and see that I missed a payment a month ago because I lost my job?
And I want to talk to you about
God
that.
Forbid.
You missed a payment on your visa like 2 months ago, Richard. I want to talk about that. See, now let me just say real quickly about Exhibit 6 because it's not something, once again, that the FEC is going to take into consideration and say this is illegal, okay? But you were talking about reaching out to the delegates, the 173 delegates now because they moved the goalpost where you needed 200 delegates. Now you only need 173 delegates, and that's where Howie Hawkins is right around. But some of those delegates, you guys said, have you contacted them to get them to possibly flip their vote away from Howie and put it on Jesse? This is something I think that's going to play into that factor of getting those delegates to flip. Somebody like Andrea, who a lot of people have a lot of criticism. And let me say, I've heard this woman's name a lot throughout this whole process and some of the tactics she used. And getting on to the next one. I think this is something, have the delegates responded to some of this? Have you had any stories when you've talked to delegates or heard of delegates when they hear this particular story or other stories, how they actually feel?
So my general experience is that the delegates that check out for Howie, a large percentage of them, it's because their only news on the party comes from the party itself. And part of that's because a lot of folks have been trained over the years that, you know, mainstream coverage, et cetera, of the Green Party is going to slander it. So they go to the Green Party for their info, and then they only hear info about how Howie is doing. I'll only hear positive info about the Hawkins campaign. They never hear anything about like Chad's campaign or the folks who are raising issues with the primary process. They don't hear about Dario's complaints. But when you bring it to them and you confront it with them, you get a mix of reactions, and it depends on what story you use. Like I spoke with a gentleman the other day who's a delegate for the Hawkins campaign, and his response to a lot of the improprieties with the primary process was, I mean, it's machine politics, you know, that you got to do what you got to do. And what I have to say to those folks is Howie really preparing to take on a machine with the way the primary has been run, or is Howie just turned the Green Party into a machine himself? Like, some folks have been so absorbed with this party for so long that they've lost sight of the fact that their insider group doesn't always have the best interests in mind, just trying to prop up each other. And but this same person, when then confronted on Howie's views on Syria, was disgusted with him. So, and didn't know that that was his view, that he was for the intervention there. So it shows you what kind of knowledge the party disseminates, and it's very selective.
I'm going to put something in real quick. I want to go off topic because I just got sent this tweet. Johnny, I put it at the very bottom real quick, and I want to respond to this tweet right now. Dario Hunter has just put out, and it says, and this was 6 hours ago, Jesse will not be up for the Green Party nomination at tomorrow's convention. Deadlines have passed, making this impossible. From election administration Gloria Matera today. Jesse Ventura did not request to speak, nor did he send an intent to accept the nomination. Just sharing facts, folks, not shade or promo. The rule cited is 5 through 10.5. No candidate shall be eligible to receive votes who has failed to declare in writing to the election administrator their intention to accept the nomination as offered. The deadline was July 9th at 12 p.m. What do you have to say about that?
So I got a couple of responses because believe me, we've been mulling over this tweet for a bit. So
Okay.
the one thing is, for one, we don't know the validity of Dario's tweet, considering, for one, Gloria Matera has ties to the Hawkins campaign that suggests she could be making a statement in bad faith. And the reason why I put this out there is because our draft campaign was contacted by the public representative of Jesse Ventura last week, and she asked us to draft up the intent to accept letter and send it to them. And all the governor had to do was sign that and send it in. And they requested it from us. So I would caution people, for one, we'll find out with certainty tomorrow if Jesse speaks. Now, in regards to Dario's comments about that specific section of the rules, for one, even if Jesse doesn't speak and hasn't sent that letter in, there's a large number of delegates that have claimed that they want to protest the results of the whole primary, and they would cast their votes as faithless electors, and we're pushing for more to hop on board. That would unbind the delegates from being committed to any candidate, and that would open up the possibility for the party to nominate Ventura. For one thing, look, if the party's already breaking a norm because it's damaging the party's reputation and they want to pick the best option, why wouldn't they go the extra mile? And then it's not even an extra mile. It's like an extra 10 feet. Do the best thing and put Ventura at the top of the ticket. The whole concept of a faithless elector in American politics is that if the results of the election are not in the best interest of the group, the delegate can choose to vote against them. And with all the evidence of how the primary has been slanted, I think we have a compelling case to not trust the results. Also, I would point out that the Dario campaign and a lot of the supporters, a few of the supporters, I should say, point out that, well, he got the second most votes. So if we discount Hawkins, it should be Dario.
I know, I heard that rumbling's going on.
Yeah, the big problem with this logic is if we agree that the primary process was slanted and Dario was the candidate who had the second easiest time getting on the ballots, of course he's going to be the person with the second most votes. So it's a pretty flawed metric to base our decision on. And there have been candidates who are drafting a joint statement pushing for all the candidates, including Jesse Ventura, except Howie, to be listed on a ballot for all the delegates to vote for at the convention. So I would say stay tuned, folks. There's also going to be people there speaking on Ventura's behalf, or at least we hope, from among the delegates, because there's a number of delegates who are sick of what's going on.
Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
The reason why I got back on this train is I saw George Galloway. Do we have that tweet? Did I even put that in there? It's on my Twitter. We had George Galloway come forth and say that Jesse Ventura is on his way to seeking the nomination. Now, George Galloway is a pretty big stand-up guy. You know, he fought against the Iraq War. He works at RT, so he knows Jesse. He knows Jesse's son. I don't foresee him saying this unless he had some inside information. Have you guys had connections with George Galloway, and did you tell him this stuff or no?
So we talk with George Galloway. He's a good guy. He's given us a lot of support. We did not coordinate him releasing that information at all. That was actually, I had called in to give him an update on our draft campaign. And then he was responding to a caller after me who was asking about Jesse's health and about his economic situation relating to his job. And that had never come up on the call between myself and George, because we can't speak to his finances or to his health. You know, we're a draft campaign. We're not his doctor or his banker, you know. But so that knowledge certainly came from somewhere else. And I would agree with you. They're longtime coworkers. They definitely know each other. They've been on each other's shows. You know, there's a lot of relationships between them as well as with him and his son. And immediately when we posted the clip, George himself promoted it, retweeted it. The mother of all talk shows has their own clips promoting Jesse Ventura running. And he wouldn't be putting Ventura's job on the line with RT if that wasn't true. I given the fact that they're
that's
friends.
the big thing. Like, he wouldn't be saying that. You know, he said he has it figured out. Now he's going for the nomination. So what's that? You got it. Let's roll it.
Isn't it money that's holding up Jesse Ventura from running? Didn't he say that was one of the issues he had, was that he would lose employment and he
It was,
lose
but
money
that
like
appears to have been taken care of. And he's now off and running for the Green Party nomination.
Isn't it money that's holding up?
All right, that was like a couple days ago.
Yeah.
That was on the 5th. 5 days ago. You know what I'm saying? 5 days ago. And then, Dario coming out with these tweets today. And I remember the tweet that Dario had about Jesse Ventura about, like, I'm not going to stand aside for another white man, blah, blah, blah. Like, I don't, you know what I'm saying? That tweet from Dario Hunter even pissed me off to the point where, like, Dario, I'm not going to even support you now, pal. When you're going to be that selfish that you're not going to stand aside. You're going to play the identity politics of the Democratic Party and stop a person who can elevate your party past all the needs necessary. So, I mean, yeah, it's disheartening at best. Exhibit 7. Let's talk about Standing Rock Indigenous Greens described incidents in which they were disenfranchised by Andrea. What's this all about?
So the Indigenous Greens, basically, they repeatedly got harassed by Andrea after she took control of their group and made decisions for them. And this was a group of Indigenous Greens who were protesting at Standing Rock. I can't speak to all of their experiences because my involvement and understanding of this is just confined to this letter. But the concerns that they had about what Andrea did are pretty clear. And the way that she silenced Indigenous folk who were getting involved and didn't distribute supplies to them. She didn't connect with people at the Standing Rock community. These are all examples of how, and the reason why this is important more so is because the Green Party stresses grassroots democracy and inclusion of disenfranchised people. So all of these actions are against the key values of the Green Party. Whether or not the FEC will take action on this for being disenfranchisement, I don't know. Probably not.
Unethical, yes. Against the law, no. But this is once again something for the delegates to see that this is Andrea,
and it's nice and public.
Hawkins. Yeah,
since it's FEC filed, it's nice and public.
Yeah. They got to get out there. They got to really confess this whole thing and knock it down so they can build it up again. Michael O'Neill conflicts. Now, Michael O'Neill sent me a letter giving us our credentials for the Green Party media team, so we're got our credentials and could cover it. But what is Michael O'Neill's conflicts over here? Because I see a lot of money going to the Howie Hawkins campaign. Is that it?
Yeah, so he was an advertiser on the Howie Hawkins payroll. And the month after he got off of being an advertiser for Howie Hawkins, he was hired to be the communications director of the party. And he's also on the payroll for the Green Party of New York, which is connected with the GPUS. He's got a position there. And what he manages communication. So he handles the promotion and the promotion of different events for the party. He also handles this program. It's called the Greenway Forward that runs on Jill Stein's Facebook. And what they do is they promote different concepts of the Green Party. He used the Greenway Forward to orchestrate a series of unsanctioned events around eco-socialism. And by labeling them unsanctioned events, he was able to circumvent needing to provide equal time to candidates. And then only Dario and Howie were invited to speak at these events. And at some of them, only Howie was invited to speak.
Wow.
Yeah. Right?
Yeah. Okay.
There were the other folks who spoke included people like Gloria Matera, who we mentioned earlier is the person who says Jesse isn't running. She's the elections administrator. She's also been Howie Hawkins' running mate before and has violated every single conflict of interest rule as well. But the important thing to understand here is that party resources and money were put into these public events, and other candidates besides Howie Hawkins were not invited consistently. He gets unsanctioned airtime using party funds, and no one else does. And they also use social media to promote it.
That's big. The fact that he gets to use the party funds and nobody else does, that's a serious
And
Serious
to
conflict of
stack on
interest.
top of that, too, as the communications director for the party, Michael O'Neill has not done a very good job at communicating when different primaries are happening. And they always fall back on, well, it's the state parties. But then you look at the complaints that we've looked at earlier. Even at the state level, there are folks that are in bed with the Hawkins campaign that are enabling this.
Yeah, I'm gonna skip over a couple of them. Let's get to Exhibit 10
That's
real
fair.
quick. Well, wait, we have to do 9 because
We
Brandon Hobbs
we
is a
should
big
definitely do 9. Yeah.
one. Number 9 is an important one. So he even says right here, "Hell yeah, I'm biased. Tell us what Brandon Hobbs does, what his position is, and the conflict of interest here."
Yeah, so Brandon Hobbs, he's part of the Utah Green Party. He's been on the payroll as a consultant for Howie Hawkins. He manages ballot access for them now, too. And he's also the ballot access coordinator for the entire Green Party. What this has meant is he's been able to use party resources in order to establish ballot lines. Now, the Green Party doesn't have party ballot lines everywhere. They have to do independent ballot lines in certain states. And so that means Phillips has been in a position where he's been able to use party resources to work on the independent petitions first with Howie Hawkins' name on them, rather than working towards the party ballot lines, which, when you couple that with how Hawkins has said he'd run if he didn't win the nomination, is a pretty bad look and a pretty clear conflict of interest and a misallocation of party resources.
Yeah, that's the main thing. It's the misallocation of funds. Let's go on to Exhibit 11. Who's Robin Lorraine? She's the co-chair of the Green Party in Michigan. What's that all about?
Yeah. So Robin Lorraine spoke out against Jesse Ventura. She was part of the exploratory committee that helped determine Jesse Ventura's candidacy, the viability of it, and she spoke out repeatedly about his run, talked down about him being a celebrity. She's also on the record saying right after the Michigan primary that she was proud that her state didn't vote for a celebrity. We know in Michigan
that there was some access in Michigan. Was he on the ballot?
In Michigan? Jesse was a write-in candidate, and they did take write-ins. However, there was misreporting on the results. We noticed We Want Jesse, which was Aaron Fox's group, initially said Jesse Ventura won the state with like 70 votes, and then they quickly deleted their post. And then the public results did not reflect that. It showed Jesse Ventura in, I believe, second place.
Behind Hawkins?
Yeah, behind Hawkins. That's the other important part there.
So he won, then they took it down, and he lost. All right, Robert Edward Smith, Exhibit 12. Who is that? Exhibit 12. He's a CCC member?
So Robert Edward Smith, we've got an interesting relationship with this guy. So he's on the communications coordination committee for the party, and he represents West Virginia. He also handles social media for West Virginia, but he's also on the payroll for the Howie Hawkins campaign as a media coordinator. And he regularly harasses Ventura supporters on Twitter. So also an important thing to note about Robert Smith's role is leading up to the West Virginia primary, he was our point of contact with their party. And he told us he would release vote totals to us after the primary. And then he ghosted our emails. We had a volunteer follow up for 4 days straight, and Robert Smith never replied with the vote totals. There's only percentages released for West Virginia, and we want to know where the Ventura votes went.
Fugaziness over there. Exhibit 14, it talked about the North Carolina primary. I think we talked about it. They moved the goalpost. Only Howie Hawkins was on the ballot. And no preference almost got him. It was about 46 votes behind. So, wow. What happened at the Texas primary and Exhibit 15?
Texas, they used a really contrived formula, which the formula itself isn't improper, but it's not exactly common. And the way that it breaks down, Howie Hawkins was able to win around 44% of the vote and win 77% of the delegates.
So people are so just like conditioned for that now. They did that with the DNC too as well. You know what I'm saying, with Bernie and Buttigieg and how Buttigieg got more delegates. And I want to also point out in the Texas primary that Howie Hawkins got 40 votes total.
Yeah,
40.
right?
Yeah, it's more exciting
state of Texas
watching grass grow than listening to Howie Hawkins speak. I'd rather watch paint dry. Now, Exhibit 16 is Missouri. What happened in Missouri?
So Missouri, this also goes with Exhibit 17 too, the Illinois Convention. These were public events where the presidential candidates were supposed to be able to speak, but Dario Hunter was excluded from both. And in fact, at one of them had to ask folks to come listen to him speak during lunchtime, and he just addressed them while people were eating in protest. And I don't blame him for that. This is one of the places where Howie Hawkins got preferential treatment.
Yep, of course. What about Exhibit 18? Delegate changes.
Okay.
Tell us about that briefly.
This is a horrendous one. So the delegates, originally, the maximum amount of delegates was 402 that were supposed to be attending the convention, which meant that Howie Hawkins would have needed 201 plus 1 delegates for a majority, 202. That number has slowly decreased over the course of the primary for spurious reasons at best. They say that states miss deadlines, but like we're in the middle of COVID and those deadlines could have been extended until the date of the convention. It's a Zoom call. The way that the delegates went down, it went from 201 to 197, I believe, originally, then 193. Then in the 180s, it went down to 182, and now it's 173. Yeah, it went down 4 separate
Conveniently.
times. Yeah,
Hawkins has 173 delegates.
Yeah, it was right after Dario Hunter and Jesse Ventura started winning more delegates than Howie in these states. All of a sudden, Howie only needed 3 more delegates to win the primary. Wow. Huh.
Yeah. I like this one, Exhibit 19. The Kansas Phantom Primary. Give us really quickly.
Oh, yeah.
We'll talk about that.
And this happened across the country in other primaries, too. Kansas had a primary where 15 people voted, and Howie Hawkins won. 15 people were asked to vote, 6 voted, and all voted for Howie Hawkins. And the Dario campaign raised issue with it.
Wait a second. You're talking about 6,000, 600?
No,
are you talking about
six people? 6 single people. Yeah, like a dinner table.
Man. What happened with Colorado with their Green Party dispute, Exhibit 20 and Exhibit 21?
Same sort of deal. Dario filed a challenge to the way that the delegates were allocated and some behavior during the primary. The primary was not promoted. There was only I think 100 or maybe 40 votes out of the total number of registered Greens in Colorado. There's been these phantom primaries all across the country. New Mexico is the same deal. Someone posted on one of our pages. They said they registered to vote Green, pinged the New Mexico Green Party repeatedly. When is the primary? For weeks. And then the New Mexico Green Party released a statement, Howie Hawkins wins the primary. They never heard about when to vote.
That's something that the FEC is going to look into for sure. Exhibit 22, disputed filed by primary delegates with the GPUS, rejected as of 7/6/2020, which was the day after George Galloway made his statement. Dario has a little bit of a dispute. What's this all about?
So it looks like whatever screenshot was supposed to be in here didn't post, but I know of a few contexts where delegates have disputed. The one of which is the Youth Caucus. Individual delegates from the Youth Caucus have disputed the results because Howie Hawkins was given all 4 delegates due to a miscalculation with their delegate allocation method. They should have rounded down, not up, and so Ventura should have gotten the last delegate. I know the Colorado Green Party delegates complained. That's why he went from 7 to 8,
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
He went from 7 to 8. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, and the Youth Caucus as well charge a poll tax. They charge a $10 dues fee in order to be able to vote of 18-year-old college students in the middle of a pandemic. Yeah. Real classy. That's just an aside. I don't think that made it into part of this complaint, but I'm sure they complained about that internally, and they are reevaluating that, is my understanding.
Now, the last ones are 23-1 and 23-2. I think we kind of talked about this. They're not releasing a lot of the actual primary results. They're just trying to give you the percentages, and they've done this, and yet they've started their nomination process without releasing the actual numbers from some of these primaries. Is that what this is about?
Oh, yeah. The D.C. is particularly horrendous. D.C. was an entirely write-in primary, and then they released the results as 100% of people voted for a write-in option. Like, wow, really?
335
Tell us
of
the
them,
breakdown. Right? Yeah. That's the official
so
breakdown.
Weird. That is weird. So we don't know who they wrote in, and it could be Jesse, it could be Dario, it could be Chad, it could be Sedanam, it could be
I know
Dennis,
at least one person who voted for Dario who lives there, and there's certainly more than that, and they all want to know where their votes went.
Okay. All right, so that's the list that went over to the FEC, and we can only see what's going on. But right now, I think we're just in the clouds. We're in the shadows. We don't know what's going on. I mean, obviously, Dario releasing that tweet today where he said he contacted somebody who's like a kind of equivalent to the registrar of the Green Party who handles all the accepting of the nominated process, and saying that letter that you sent off to Jesse was never received by her, so therefore he's not going to speak. He's not even eligible. He's nothing. But
it's not true. I will say that if none of the above is what's voted for in round one, Jesse Ventura can still be nominated. It does not matter that letter was not sent in. So even if it wasn't, and we find out tomorrow that they're telling the truth, there's still a possibility.
Have you heard from many of Jesse Ventura's people?
The closest contact we've heard from about that is George Galloway saying that what we posted was correct.
Yeah. What's Cynthia McKinney's role in this whole thing?
You cut out for a second there.
Cynthia
what was that?
McKinney. What's Cynthia McKinney's whole role in this situation? Didn't she try to reach out and talk to Jesse?
Cynthia McKinney has been pushing for Jesse to run since 2016. And when she heard about us, she got on board and started contacting him privately again. She's all on board. This morning, she was putting pressure on the Green Party publicly, saying that she wishes they would draft him at the convention. And, I mean, Jesse doesn't have a running mate yet. And I'll just put that out there. He said repeatedly that a Ventura McKinney ticket's very appealing to him, and she has not turned down that option.
Yeah. I mean, even if she wasn't the running mate and she was still involved with the campaign, maybe they can bring another running person in. I asked Cornel West yesterday if he would support. I'd like to see a Ventura West campaign, because a Ventura West campaign would win.
That would totally win. Absolutely.
Not just it would win. But, I mean, that's just really, really wishful thinking, and I don't want to put that out there to all the watchers. Nothing has been said. But he did support the Green Party in 2016. He did support the Green Party in 2012. He did support NATO before, so who knows? But I think we're going to all be on edge at this, on the edge of our seats. What time do things get started tomorrow for the nominating process, the first round of the Green Party convention?
It looks like the convention starts tomorrow at noon Eastern, and the Green Party is supposed to be sharing. Yeah, Green Party's supposed to be sharing links to watch it for free on Facebook and Twitter. Originally, it was supposed to be a $100 fee to watch the convention.
Yeah, but now it's. I mean, yeah, the Green Party, the party of the working class people, charging people $100. Really, really nice.
Yeah, for a Zoom call.
For a Zoom call. I know they're too much. Listen, Richard, this is kind of a weird interview. It's a weird situation. The whole time I've been walking on eggshells, kind of walking a tightrope to figure out what to do. I've gotten that out of my mind that Jesse wasn't going to run. Then you have situations where it comes back into play. The George Galloway thing. If somebody called George Galloway, where did he get this information from and where is it coming from? And then you have Dario, who a lot of people say that Dario just wants Howie Hawkins pushed out of the way so he can get the nomination, which is also a losing situation. I'm so sorry. At best, if Dario gets the nomination, nobody knows about him either. So, I mean, I want to thank you for coming on, but do you have anything to close with before we proceed into tomorrow's convention?
Oh, yeah. If folks want to help out tonight, the most important thing would be to keep pinging the Green Party online and tell them about faithless electors. We ought to get faithless electors trending on Twitter. The delegates need to know that it's within their right to vote against Howie Hawkins. Contact your local Green Party. You can sign our petition if you want to. That's going to be something that we publicly talk about, whoever's helping represent us at the convention. We're putting on all the pressure. And the other thing to know, too, is even if he doesn't end up getting drafted by the Green Party, we're writing a proposal that we'll be sending to him about an independent run. So we're looking into the ballot access deadlines for that. So all is not lost for a Draft Jesse campaign.
Well, I'm going to say this much. I don't think if he gets the Green Party nomination, there's a chance. If he doesn't get the Green Party nomination with COVID going on, getting signatures and trying to get battle access,
It's going to be a challenge.
It's going to be a huge challenge. And I appreciate your heart and fighting for that and really trying to get Jesse going. But at this particular time, right now, Jesse's got to make the move. He's got a lot of people behind him.
Yeah.
He's got over 10,000 people signed on that list. Half those Green Party candidates want him in there. You talk about Chad Wilson.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of people who said he was just an instigator. Well, he wants Jesse to get the nomination. I know Dennis will. I know delegates that we know that said they would step aside of even supporting Howie or Dario and let Jesse take this ball and run with it. So it's going to be interesting. It's I'm not losing complete faith, but yeah.
I'm with you 100% on that for sure. Yeah. He's got at this point, he's got to be the one who steps forward. You know, we've got the door open for him. We need our candidate, and we've got a perfect opportunity this weekend. So stay tuned, folks, you know?
Listen, with that FEC filing, there's a lot of good stuff in there. I mean, there's some stuff that is just unethical and not illegal, but there's some stuff there's a serious conflict of interest, and the FEC could look at it and say, no, no, no. So the Hawkins campaign better proceed cautiously. You know what I'm saying? Because they get the nomination here, and then the FEC comes back, and they have to pull it. What are you going to do then? You know what I'm saying? This is really, to tell you the truth, they should have stepped aside a while ago and made this happen with Jesse Ventura.
Yeah.
But once again, put that tinfoil hat on. Maybe they're trying to sabotage it from the inside.
Yeah, I mean, I've got so many tinfoil hats, I crumple them up, and I have to make a new one every time I come up with a new idea. What can I say?
Yeah. Stranger things have happened. Hey, Richard, thank you so much. Tell people where they can go find the Jesse Ventura, the draft Jesse Ventura stuff.
Yeah, if you want to check us out, you can follow us at People4Jesse, the number 4 on Twitter. And you can check us out at draftjesse.com and sign our petition, change.org/Ventura 2020. You know, we need all the support we can get. Let's make it happen.
Listen, you hear anything about any news from Jesse, you let us know, and we'll
keep you
put it out
posted.
there.
Appreciate you.
Thanks a lot. That's it, boys and girls, and my humans. This is Pasta Jardula, Johnny Sue, Brother Sue on the ones and twos, Richard Idris, Draft Jesse here with us. Convo out.